Chapter 316. She won't give up, will she? She's had such a smooth journey. She might not be able to accept it now. Yeah, after all, that suitcase is really good. I can't bear to leave it here without it. They were all wondering if Tangwa would cry. Then Tangwa said to Liang Chao, "Let's go." Liang Chao hesitated for a moment. Thinking that Tangwa must have some ideas, he began to climb. He wanted to take his bag and carry it himself, but Tangwa refused and said that it was no problem. That bag was tied to the suitcase. When the audience heard these words, they all thought that Tangwa was going to give up. Next, Tangwa began to climb. She took out a small remote control and pressed something. Then she began to climb the rock, completely ignoring the suitcase. Didn't she bring her suitcase? But if she didn't bring it, she would only have a small bag on her back. How is she going to live for the next month? Under everyone's doubts, someone suddenly found that the suitcase moved. Look, the suitcase moved. It moved. Then they seemed to see something terrible. The suitcase rushed to the rock at a fast speed. Two iron claws stretched out, grabbed the rock, and climbed up. Its climbing speed was even faster than a human's. Please tell me that this is not real. Is that a robot? No, I guess it's an Autobot, like a bumblebee. No, it should be called a boxman. It can slide on flat ground, open a path in grass, climb mountains, and maybe even swim. Aw, I want such a suitcase. Suhi was stunned, and Bai Wenwen was also dumbfounded, because the box just passed by them and quickly climbed to the top of the rock. The people who were climbing looked at the box that was high up, as if it was looking down on them, and their faces were a little red. Bai Wenwen gritted her teeth. So what if the box was first? The director said that the team was first. In order to get bathwater, she must get first place. Bai Wenwen and Suhi worked hard to climb up. The other two teams did not deliberately compete for first place. Everyone knew that this first place was set for Bai Wenwen and Suhi, but they had to ask Tangwa and Liang Chao if they agreed. Let's get first place. Liang Chao, can you do it? Liang Chao blushed. Xiaogua, you can't ask a man if he can do it in front of the camera. This kind of shameful question will hurt a man's self-esteem. The audience, fuck. As expected, Best Actor Liang's image is crumbling every day. I've participated in the training of the climbing team. There's no problem at all. The reason why he didn't hurry was that he was concerned about Tangwa. He was afraid that she would have a problem. Then let's hurry up. Then, everyone saw a vigorous figure climbing up the mountain at lightning speed. She seemed to be running, and her relaxed movements stunned the onlookers. Even Liang Chao was surprised for a moment and hurriedly followed. Wow, she actually knows how to rock climb. That's not right. Isn't her speed a little scary? Is she cheating? Fuck, heroine. Your skills are not bad. Although there are still many people who don't like Tangwa, judging from her performance, she is not the kind of flower vase star on the surface. Her climbing speed was fast, and her movements were neat and handsome. It reminded them of Lin Weiwei, who was in love in high school. She was also a very handsome girl. The campus drama was only half updated, and they were a little impatient to see today's update. I'm sorry, but the first place is mine. This was what Tangwa said when she passed by Bai Wenwen and Suhi. Hateful and arrogant. Chapter 317. Cheers. When Bai Wenwen and Liang Chao climbed to the top of the rock, they saw Tangwa and Liang Chao sitting on the rock drinking red wine. Their faces were distorted, which was immediately captured by the camera. If I were Bai Wenwen and Suhi, my actions would be more ferocious than theirs. Well, I understand. We all understand. Those two people are too hateful. The red wine was taken out of Tangwa's suitcase. When she came out, the staff above were shocked. Tangwa looked at the river behind the rock. I don't know if there are fish in it. Grilled fish with red wine. Very good. Liang Chao swallowed subconsciously. It's very good. When everyone came up, Chang Yuan wanted to drive these two people out of the program. Drinking red wine was one thing, but they were also discussing catching fish in the river. Why don't you go to heaven? The audience, they must be here for a tour. I don't know which tour they signed up for. In VN, Chang Yuan coughed lightly. Tangwa and Liang Chao's group won first place in rock climbing. You can make a request? What do you want? Tangwa asked Liang Chao. He shook his head. You can ask. I don't want anything. Director Chong, give me a barbecue grill. I also need seasoning. You should have prepared it, right? Chong Yuan chuckled. You really only want a barbecue grill? He was prepared. After all, they had to survive in the wild for a month, and the program group couldn't bring too much food. If they were really in urgent need, they could only contact people outside and let them airdrop in. When Bai Wenwen heard about the barbecue grill, her face distorted again. Her bath water. There is water below. I will go down later. I will build a shed by the river, and you can wash. It was just that the water was cold, and it would be uncomfortable to wash. Suhi regretted that he didn't bring a small pot. Hearing Suhi's words, Bai Wenwen's face turned pale. She grabbed Suhi and said, He, we have to live here for a month, and we can only take cold baths every day? Although she had the system, she didn't dare to exchange the things inside. Bai Wenwen glanced at the two drinking people over there and felt very strange. Why didn't her bad luck talisman work? Maybe it's because Liang Chao's luck is great. Host, you have to work hard to conquer Liang Chao and obtain his favorable impression. 875's voice was still a little excited, but Bai Wenwen didn't notice it. To be honest, Bai Wenwen was a little flustered. In the past, when she did the strategy quest, no matter how difficult it was, she could overcome it. This time, it was quite smooth at the beginning, but there was no progress in the end. She had also accepted 4 missions. Currently, only Wei Chuan's mission had made the most progress. Suhi's mission had not been touched, but the other 2 were almost 100 points. If everything failed, she would be obliterated. Tangwa sharpened a harpoon and was harpooning fish in the river with Liang Chao. Every time Tangwa poked her fork, she would always hit a comment. The audience and fans were also spamming the bullet screen nonstop. Wow, wow, wow. This fish spear technique is amazing. Let's not talk about you, Best Actor Liang. You didn't even catch a single fish. They actually want our Tang Tang to raise them. How embarrassing. Tangwa's performance was really to people's liking. They didn't even bother to scold her and were convinced by her skills. Xiaogua, quickly teach me. Why do you succeed every time? Liang Chao had a bitter face. The audience. Best Actor Liang, you're too much. Xiao Nye watched the two of them working together happily by the river. His fingers moved, and he sent a bullet screen. Liang Chao is not a man. He finally felt a little better. Chapter 318. Hiss, it's so cold. Bai Wenwen frowned and began to wash the mud on her body. The miniature camera had a privacy setting. At present, she was not being filmed, and there would be female staff members helping to guard outside the shed. The program group still respected the female actors. On the other side, Tangwa was eating grilled fish with Liang Chao. Many staff members of the program group also went into the river to fish, but not many could catch a fish with a fork like Tangwa. After rock climbing and fishing, everyone had to admit that Tangwa had wilderness survival skills. After eating the fish, Chang Yuan told the groups that they were stationed across the river. They had to find a way to cross the river by themselves. They could even swim over, but if they swam over, their backpacks would get wet and the items inside would be damaged. It would also be bad for their image. The program group must have set up this segment to test the actors' wisdom. Most of the people in the program group had already rowed the motorboats that had been prepared long ago, leaving Tangwa and the other 8 people here. The first thing Bai Wenwen thought of was to make a wooden raft. The river was 7 meters wide, and they could cross the river by making a wooden raft. However, they needed to cut down trees to make a wooden raft, but according to the forest protection law, they were not allowed to cut down trees. They could only pick up some dead trees. I think Tang Tang and Liang Chao should have asked the program group for a motorboat. Unfortunately, they lost this opportunity. Yeah, why didn't I think of that? I thought the reward was to let Bai Wenwen and Su Chenghui take a bath. Now I understand that the program group is giving them a chance to cross the river. I can only say that Director Chong is scheming. Chu Nuo came to the river and measured the water depth with a long bamboo pole. The depth is close to 3 meters. If he was alone, it would not be a problem to swim over. Even if he had a backpack, he could still take care of it. But this game was not for them to swim over. I think we can only make a wooden raft. Bai Wenwen said, but we can't cut down trees. We can only pick up some dead tree trunks. It seems that there is no other way except for making a bamboo raft. What do you think? Chu Nuo asked Bai Ning Shui. Bai Ning Shui shook her head. She had no wilderness survival skills at all. We can only make a bamboo raft. Then let's go look for wood. Bai Wenwen also pulled Suhi to look for blockhead. No matter what, with so many groups, they had to look for blockhead first. Chui and I and Chui Yuanbin looked at each other and smiled. Brother, we're going to play our old tricks again. Haha, sister, I'm looking forward to it. Upon hearing the siblings' words, the fans suddenly recalled that the siblings were once famous for playing stilts. Most people who played stilts were only about a meter tall, while experts played with stilts that were 3 meters tall. The siblings had played with stilts that were 4 meters tall. As long as they could find 4 3-meter-long pipes, they would be able to cross the river smoothly. Then, they locked their gazes on Tanghua and Liang Chao. They heard Tanghua say, "You've done rock climbing and parkour before, right?" I did." Liang Chao was a little embarrassed. When he was a teenager, he especially liked all kinds of extreme sports. Every week, he would rock climb and run cool. He even ran on high-rise buildings and almost scared his mother to a heart attack. When the fans heard about Liang Chao's past, they couldn't help but laugh. But what did Tanghua mean by asking this? They need at least 4 pieces of wood to cross the river. We only need 1, Tanghua said meaningfully. Chapter 319. Director Chiao, are you sure the second female lead is Tanghua? Actually, I've taken a fancy to this role. I wonder if Director Chiao can make an exception for me, said the investor. He had recently taken in a newcomer, and he liked her very much. That was why he put down his pride and asked. Xiao Nye glanced at the middle-aged man. No one can interfere with my role. The investor was a little unhappy. Director Chiao, you can't just do that just because Tanghua is yours. I can give your candidate an opportunity to audition. If she's better than Tanghua, she'll be the second female lead. Of course, that was impossible. Xiao Nye sneered. The investor breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't expect Xiao Nye to agree. As long as he gave him an opportunity to audition, everything would be easy. Thinking of a piece of news he had learned, he took a deep look at Xiao Nye and quickly left with a smile. After leaving the room, he couldn't help but sneer. Didn't Tanghua go to the wild reality TV show? He was afraid that she wouldn't come back. Thinking that he had accidentally overheard it, he quickly hid his expression. Secret, this was a secret. After the investor left, Xiao Nye turned on the live broadcast of the reality show and saw Tanghua smiling at Liang Chao. He couldn't help but tighten his grip on the mouse. Chui and I and her brother had already found 2 pieces of wood that were about 3 meters long. They tried to see if they could support them. They carried their backpacks, extended the wood into the river, tied it to their legs, and began to cross the river. The bullet screen was filled with, Chui and I are awesome. The 2 of them were very nervous. They supported each other. It was actually very difficult to walk on stilts in the water. There was a lot of resistance. Fortunately, their basic skills were strong. After more than 10 minutes, they finally crossed the river. The 2 of them were sweating profusely when they came down. Bai Wenwen and Suhi's team, as well as Ning Shui and Chu Nuo's team, had found a lot of wood and were making wooden rafts. Tanghua and Liang Chao were also wandering in the forest. The audience saw that they didn't pick up some short pieces of wood and didn't know what they meant. Until Tanghua and Liang Chao saw a complete tree branch in front of them. Its leaves had just fallen off. It was as thick as a thigh and more than 10 meters long. Liang Chao took out the machete he carried with him and chopped off all the branches, leaving only a bare trunk. Then, Liang Chao worked hard and carried the tree trunk back. Don't tell me they are also making bamboo rafts and have to choose a complete tree? Wow, do they have obsessive-compulsive disorder? If it was a bamboo raft, it would not be attractive to them. There were already 2 sets of bamboo rafts. There was no novelty at all. On the other hand, the Chui siblings were a little interesting. Crossing the river on stilts required skills. I'm a little worried that their luggage will be too heavy when they row the bamboo raft. Will it sink? Ha ha ha. You must be poisonous. But the person in front is right. The luggage is so heavy. Then, they saw Yang Chao place the tree trunks on both sides of the riverbank. Suddenly, There was complete silence. It can't be what I think, right? Is Best Actor Liang going to perform parkour for us here? If that's the case, I'll shout 666 for him. Then what about Tangwa? What about her luggage? According to everyone's thinking, they didn't think that Tangwa could also carry her luggage and run across the river. Moreover, it was a 7-meter wide river. It was only as thick as a thigh, and it was a round tree trunk. If they were not careful, they would slide down. Chapter 320. Then I'll go over first? Liang Chao asked. Can you really do it? He still couldn't believe it. He glanced at the suitcase again. Tangwa took out the remote control. The audience was already very familiar with this action. Don't tell me it can really swim. If it can, I'll kneel down to it. Tang, where did you get this black technology? After adjusting it, the suitcase in front of them indeed went into the water. The eyelids of the people on both sides of the river twitched. A board appeared under the suitcase. After it went into the water, it rushed to the opposite side as if it was surfing. When it reached the shore, it automatically stretched out its 2 legs and climbed onto the shore in a very human-like manner. It stood there as if it was waiting for its owner to arrive. Fuck, brother suitcase, I'll kneel to you. I'll kneel to you. Okay? Our country has a rule that spirits are not allowed after the founding of the country. Brother suitcase, hurry up and leave. You'll be caught later. Countless comments flooded the screen, pushing the popularity of the show to another high. Chang Yuan touched his nose. Actually, he didn't expect that this was a reality show. In the end, a suitcase stole the limelight, and it was his ability that stole the limelight. He glanced at Tangwa opposite him. He would ask Xiaotang later who had sent it. His daughter had just called again. If he didn't bring it back this time, that girl would definitely ignore him. Liang Chao wasn't worried at all. He stepped on the tree trunk and ran quickly to the opposite side. He was originally handsome and had a rebellious personality. Parkour was also a sport that he used to love. When he started running, he felt as if he had returned to his teenage years. He wanted to reminisce, but he didn't expect to reach the opposite side. He revealed a rather regretful look, which made the fans cry out loudly. Xiao Nye sent another comment. Since he likes parkour, it means that this man is not mature. Of course, the comments were quickly drowned out. Following closely was Tangwa. She lightly jumped on the tree trunk and ran over quickly. She was light as a feather. Before the crowd could react, she had already reached the opposite side. This made the audience think that it was actually very easy to run over. Wow. Best Actor Liang is so handsome. No. My Tang is the handsome one. I still think Suitcase is the most handsome. Bai Wenwen was also somewhat incredulous. System, is there any talisman that can let me directly run over like that? Sorry, host, you don't have enough points. If you want to exchange for items, please work hard to complete the mission. As for Tangwa's speed, the skill was completely her own ability and did not rely on external forces. This clearly told Bai Wenwen that she had to rely on herself. Bai Wenwen almost cursed it out loud. If she wasn't bound to such a thing that required points for everything, would she have to work so hard to capture a man? After the system's evaluation, the host was very willing to conquer men, but was passive in the face of difficulties. In order to make the host continue to work hard, the system decided to give the host an electric shock as punishment. Before Bai Wenwen had time to refute, she felt as if her soul had been struck by exhaustion. Her face suddenly turned pale, and she couldn't shout out. By the time she calmed down, her hatred for the system had reached 90 points. So this is the punishment. Tangwa was somewhat curious. It can actually directly attack the soul. If the host is interested, we can study it after I swallow 875. Chapter 321. Bai Wenwen, Su He, Chu Nuo, and Bai Ningxue finally finished setting up the raft and rode to the camp. Tangwa stood by the river and stared at Bai Wenwen's pale face without blinking. Her excited look almost made Bai Wenwen faint. Su He took a deep look at Tangwa, smiled at the camera, took Bai Wenwen away, and chose a place to set up the tent. Liang Chao was setting up a tent there, and he set up Tangwa's tent as well. In his mind, Tangwa was his savior and sister, so he must take good care of her. After eating a bag of snacks, Tangwa stood up. The audience behind the screen saw her walk to the suitcase and remove something from it. It looks like a small shovel. It's just a small shovel. What is she going to do? After Liang Chao set up the tent, he saw Tangwa digging a hole. He walked to the side of the big hole. What is she going to do with it? Carry water. Tangwa didn't stop digging. It's so hot. You can't not take a bath, right? Liang Chao had a strange expression. It's all mud. It's easy to mix it up with water. Although he liked extreme sports, he had never participated in wilderness survival training. Not to mention Liang Chao, the others were the same. They had no common sense about wilderness survival. It was also because of this that there was a reality show called Big Star Walking into the Forest. It's just heating up the water, Tangwa said indifferently. I brought a manual shower head. Audience, did you hear what she said? It seems that she brought a shower head. Where is it? Why didn't I see it? I guess it's some kind of black technology. The person in front is right. I also think it's black technology. I'm looking forward to it. The other teams also noticed that Tangwa was digging a hole, but they didn't care. The staff of the program were different. They had already brought in a month's worth of daily necessities, so they didn't have to worry about it at all. Liang Chao, go make a fire. Although Liang Chao was puzzled, he still went to make a fire. After digging a big hole to her satisfaction, Tangwa goes to the river. They thought she was going to draw water, but they didn't expect that she was going to pick up stones. The audience, I understand now. She wants to heat up the stone and throw it into the pit with water. That way, there will be hot water. That's right, the sun isn't too bright now. Otherwise, we could just direct the water into the pit and let it dry for a day. People who survived in the wild weren't unfamiliar with this, but it was a little surprising that a big star knew about it. Unknowingly, the viewers became more curious about Tangwa, and the number of curses on the bullet screen decreased a lot. After Liang Chao made the fire, he followed Tangwa's instructions and put the stone on top of the fire. She turned around and rummaged through her suitcase again. Under the stunned gaze of the audience, she took out a long tube. That was right. It was the pipe. 666, even an old granny would be impressed by you. You even brought a water pipe. Ha ha ha, Tang Tang is well prepared. As expected of my goddess. Although I'm this woman's anti-fan, I can't help but admire her foresight at this time. At least she's not that brainless. She's very smart, okay? Look at the other teams, who brought a pipe and a shovel. Tangwa slowly walked to the river, threw the pipe down, and let Liang Chao hold the other end. She said, I'll leave the sucking of water to you. This kind of work that damages my image is not suitable for me. The audience, ha 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 ha, you're so confident. Chapter 322. The big pit was mostly filled with water, and the stones over there were almost hot. Liang Chao, this kind of heavy work of throwing stones into the pit is not suitable for me. Liang Chao's face was full of joy. I'll go. The audience, Liang Chao, your character has collapsed again. Liang Chao, are you so happy working? Chao Nye stared at the smiling woman on the screen. Especially when she was directing Liang Chao to work, at that moment, he had a feeling of wanting to replace Liang Chao. Seeing Liang Chao's silly working appearance, Chao Nye's eyes deepened. Maybe he could be a guest? Wow, it's really hot. Liang Chao was very curious. He tested the water temperature and saw Tangwa rummaging in the suitcase. Sure enough, she found 2 shower heads. Unlike the shower head at home, there was something like a pliers grip on the handle, and there was a thin tube under it. Tangwa gave one to Liang Chao and said, put the other end in the water. When you take a bath, squeeze the handle hard and the water will come up. It's no different from the shower head at home. The audience, sure enough, it's black technology. Although it's magical, it's not impossible to make. I'm very curious now. Is the person who gave Tang Tang these things a senior inventor? If it's true, when will these things go on the market? This is what I'm concerned about. I still want that box. One after Liang Chao got the shower head, he was very happy. Without needing Tangwa to say anything, he said, I'm going to build a shower shed. Tangwa nodded and found a place to sit down. She watched the other groups get busy and do all kinds of interesting things. None of them had experienced wilderness survival training. The tents they set up were not stable. They had to set up many times before they succeeded. When they made a fire, they found some wet firewood. As a result, the surrounding smoke was billowing and they thought it was on fire. Anyway, the audience was laughing. On Tangua's side, they only knew how to shout 666. Now, the performance of the others finally made them feel a little better. Well, not all stars are like Tangua, who has all wilderness survival skills. There are still people with black technology. By 1-1, and Suhi finished setting up the tent and looked up. On Tangua's side, the two tents were set up securely. The place they chose was quite secluded. It was surrounded by mountains on 3 sides. Not only was it very safe, but it also had private space. Not far from the tent, there was a steaming puddle, and not far from the puddle, there was a shed for some unknown purpose. Why are they all done? Baiwenwen couldn't help but complain to 875. These aboriginals are really amazing. Host, don't underestimate the natives. If the host didn't have this system, he would only be beaten up by the natives in this world. Baiwenwen was upset, but she didn't dare to say anything. She picked up the clothes she had changed out of and prepared to wash them by the river. Just as she was about to throw the clothes in, she felt someone approaching her. She turned around and saw that it was Tangua. She was so shocked that she blurted out, "What are you doing?" She suddenly remembered that there was a live broadcast here, so she smiled and said, "Tangua, is there anything I can help you with?" "Washing clothes?" Audience, I have a feeling that Tang Tang is going to do something. Tang Tang, don't be impulsive. This is a live broadcast. Don't push people into the river in a fit of anger. Tangua glanced at Baiwenwen's dirty clothes and said, "We have to survive here for the next month." "I know that. Is there a problem?" Chapter 323. Tangua didn't look away and continued, "If you throw your dirty clothes into the river, what will we do if we drink water? Haven't you read the wild knowledge? When you encounter such a clear and clean river, you still have to survive here. It's best to use a container to get the water out. Otherwise, the water will be polluted by you." Baiwenwen's face stiffened. She thought that Tangua was going to warn her about something, but she just told her that washing clothes would pollute the water. Everyone else heard it, and the men who had planned to swim in the river quickly put down their clothes. Tangua was right. They had to survive here for a month. If the water was polluted, they wouldn't be able to survive at all. Baiwenwen awkwardly took the clothes back. She had to squeeze out a smile and say to Tangua, "Thank you for the reminder." Only the heavens knew how much pain she felt when she said those words. The audience, wow. Tang Tang is so professional. She actually knows how to protect drinking water. I underestimated her. Speaking of which, I don't think Tangua is the kind of person who would abandon her boyfriend for glory and wealth. That's that. Watch the live broadcast carefully. Don't wash. With Tangua's words, everyone was careful when getting water. They didn't dare to wash things casually by the river. Chang Yuan was very satisfied. The reality show showed the life of the actors, and at the same time, it was good to have a little positive energy. Inviting Tangua to this reality show was really the right thing to do. Originally, he planned to use Tangua's previous popularity to attract the audience. In the end, it really attracted the audience. After the show, the biggest winner was probably Tangua. Chang Yuan narrowed his eyes. This woman was not simple. No wonder Xiaonya was willing to go into the water with her. When they arrived at the camp, the program crew provided food for the first day. From the second day onwards, they had to prepare by themselves. It's over. Chuani's face was pale. "Brother, I forgot to bring mosquito coils." It was summer now, and they were in the forest. There were many mosquitoes, and one bite was a poisonous bag. Their skin was tender, and they couldn't even take 2 bites. They couldn't stay in the tent all the time, right? Bai Ning Shui also stiffened. She silently took out 2 mosquito coils from her backpack. Chu Nua saw it, and her face stiffened. "I forgot that there's no electricity here." Audience, ha. Ning Shui is so cute. That's right. My goddess Shui is so cute. She actually brought mosquito-repellent incense with her when she went to the wilderness. "I brought toilet water." Baiwenwen said, "I only brought 2 bottles." Everyone shook their heads. 2 bottles were definitely not enough. Even Baiwenwen and the others couldn't get 1 bottle each. The audience looked at Tangwa expectantly. They were looking forward to seeing what good stuff she would bring out. But this time, Tangwa said, "I didn't bring mosquito coils." The actresses in several groups all looked embarrassed. Surviving in the forest without mosquito coils in summer, they would be covered in blisters in less than 2 days. As for mosquitoes, you don't have to worry too much. Hearing Tangwa's words, everyone stared at her. Just find some mosquito repellent. What kind of mosquito repellent grass? Chui and I didn't understand, so she asked. She was afraid that mosquitoes would bite her and disfigure her face. Even Bai Wenwen couldn't wait for Tangwa to come up with a solution. She didn't have enough points to exchange for items. Otherwise, she could still exchange for mosquito coils. If you don't know what mosquito repellent grass is, you can find some wood with moisture. This wood will produce a very thick smoke when burned, which can drive away insects such as mosquitoes and moths. It also burns for a longer time. Chapter 324. Everyone quickly followed Tangwa's method and found some moist wood. After burning it, there was indeed a lot of smoke. The mosquitoes that had been buzzing around their ears were driven away, and they finally heaved a sigh of relief. They imitated Tangwa's method of digging a pit for hot water, heated up a lot of water, and took a comfortable bath. Although there was no manual shower head, it was still more comfortable than taking a cold shower. The entire production crew's impression of Tangwa was getting better and better. When she thought of a method, she wouldn't stop others from using it. On the contrary, if they had any doubts, they could still ask her. Of course, except for Su-hee and Bai Wenwen. At first, Su-hee came to ask Tangwa to borrow a manual shower head, but Tangwa said 2 words with a wooden face, "No." Her indifferent personality made the fans unable to feel bad for her. They really didn't know how to scold her for always showing her true nature. Do we really have to do this? Su-hee was a little hurt. I don't care about what happened back then. There's no need to be friends, right? I really don't understand. Since you chose to leave back then, why are you going back on your word now? I already have Wenwen. Tangwa, I hope you can understand. I can't break up with Wenwen just because you're unwilling to accept it, right? She was really good at shifting the blame. It was clearly Su-hee who came to borrow the shower head, but Tangwa didn't lend it. In the end, she became unreasonable because she was unwilling to accept that Su-hee didn't break up with Bai Wenwen. Why didn't this person go to heaven? In fact, Su-hee wanted to borrow a lot of tools from Tangwa. He thought that in front of the camera, Tangwa wouldn't refuse. He didn't expect that not only would she refuse, but she also refused very straightforwardly. Best Actor Su, did you misunderstand something? Tangwa smiled faintly. Under the dim firelight, her fair face was a little more flushed, and she looked very beautiful. Anyway, the audience watching the live broadcast was mesmerized. Dogface, get ready to lick the screen. I'm someone who already has a man. When Tangwa said this sentence, everyone felt like they had been hit by a dog's curse. Didn't she know the relationship between Xiao Nye and her? Anyway, everyone knew that Tangwa was Xiao Nye's mistress. If they were really in a relationship, how could Xiao Nye not announce it? Because of Tangwa, Xiao Nye's reputation had been ruined. In the end, it was because of her. The audience recalled the comments scolding Xiao Nye back then. When the woman in front of them liked them one by one, they felt uncomfortable. Did Director Chiao do something bad in his previous life to meet this woman? Director Chiao's illustrious reputation is ruined just like that? Tangwa glanced at Su-hee. You're so strange. What do you mean by I regret it? Aren't you here to borrow the shower head? What's wrong? You're angry because I refused to lend it to you, and you can't help but blame me for being blind in the past? Su-hee, you're too petty. Are you jealous that I found a better man than you? Su-hee clenched his fists. This woman was really unreasonable. She was the one who couldn't bear to see him doing well. What did she mean by regret it? If she really regretted it, would she turn around and return to Xiao Nye's side? No, no, no. I won't lend it to you no matter how many times I say it, even if you used to be someone I liked very, very much. She paused. Now I don't like you, so I won't lend it to you. When Su-hee saw her say that she liked him, a special light flashed across his eyes. At that time, he was stunned for a moment, thinking that she really liked him. But that feeling disappeared quickly. It was impossible that Tangwa really liked him. Chapter 325. Sorry to bother you. If he didn't know that there was a camera, he would never spare this woman. She didn't give him any face at all. Soo-hee, I'm telling you, this month, don't come to me to borrow things from your group. Soo-hee turned around abruptly and met Tang with smiling eyes. She continued, also, please remember, I have a man. This sentence simply angered Soo-hee to death. How can she be so righteous when she's being taken care of by others? Host, Bai Wenwen seems to be walking towards Liang Chao. Tangwa narrowed her eyes. Is she going to attack Liang Chao again? It should be. Isn't that courting death? Liang Chao won't let me down. Tangwa looked at Liang Chao meaningfully as he stood by the river. Bai Wenwen walked to his side and talked to him, mostly praising him for his good tint and the bathhouse. Could he ask him for advice? Bai Wenwen was actually desperate. She had not made any progress in the task. Soo-hee liked her, but he always felt that she was still lacking something. She came to Liang Chao for two purposes. First, to increase Liang Chao's favorability. Second, to let Soo-hee value her and increase his favorability. In fact, he doesn't mind those things for a long time. Bai Wenwen observed Liang Chao's expression. When you have time, persuade Tangwa not to be so persistent. She should be reborn and find her own life. In fact, there was nothing wrong with this statement. The premise was that Liang Chao had no ill feelings towards her. Ding! Liang Chao's favorability is 5. The current favorability has reached the lowest value of 100. The task of attacking Liang Chao has failed. The host has failed the task and will be electrocuted for 10 minutes. Bai Wenwen's eyes widened. Before she could react, the sharp pain of the electric shock came and she fell to the ground. This scene not only alarmed the audience but also others. Soo-hee ran the fastest. He picked up Bai Wenwen and glared at Liang Chao. Even if you are doing this for Tangwa, you shouldn't bully Wenwen, right? She doesn't know anything. Liang Chao's face was cold. I didn't do anything to her. You. Liang Chao indeed didn't bully Bai Wenwen. Tangwa came over and stared at the pale and ferocious Bai Wenwen. Bai Wenwen was in so much pain that her whole body was convulsing. This kind of pain would last for 10 minutes. Tangwa smiled. He was so happy. System. Happy. You really don't have any sympathy. Soo-hee saw Tangwa laughing and couldn't help it anymore. He picked up Bai Wenwen and went back to the tent. The scene was a little awkward, and everyone dispersed. Liang Chao didn't bully Bai Wenwen. He just needed to pull out the video. Soo-hee came up and said that he bullied Bai Wenwen, which was really arbitrary. However, no one missed the gloating look on Tangwa's face. Audience, she's so happy. I told you long ago that this woman is heartless and heartless. Then I'll be a fan of his looks from now on. Useless. When others are uncomfortable, she will laugh at them from the sidelines. This kind of person will be forever blackened. Anyway, I like her. Host, the number of people scolding you is increasing again. The system wasn't worried. It was just reminding its host. Tangwa opened a bottle of wine and drank happily. That's good. This time, I will make everyone pay the price. The system didn't understand. The host wants to do something big? Come, Liang Chao, drink. Liang Chao took the cup and couldn't help but ask, do you still care about Soo-hee? No. Who said I care about him? If you don't care about him, why did you do those things? Those kinds of things that attracted people's attention. Compared to Soo-hee, I think you have a better future with Xiao Nye. Xiao Nye, who was watching the live broadcast, frowned. He found Liang Chao much more pleasing to the eye. Next time, let him audition for the male lead. Chapter 326. Since that night, Liang Chao heard Tangwa say that the reason why she was so eye-catching was that she didn't want to control her joy of seeing Soo-hee suffer. She also said that she only hated Soo-hee, not liked him. In the next few days, Liang Chao observed and found that Tangwa looked at Soo-hee with no warmth in her eyes. Bai Wenwen didn't seem to get close to him anymore. She looked at him with a bit of disgust, which made him feel very strange. In the following days, Tangwa and Liang Chao lived comfortably. Everyone found that Tangwa was omnipotent. Not only could she spear fish, but she could also hunt. She even knew all kinds of plants in the forest and could find edible plants. They lived for a month and couldn't eat meat all the time. They also needed to eat some vegetables and fruits. Every day, Tanghua and Liang Chao went out happily and returned with a full load. If she couldn't finish it, she would share it with everyone, except for Suhi's group. As for Suhi and Bai Wanwan, it would be extremely awkward. The audience was also numb. I'm getting more and more used to this kind of undisguised targeting. This woman is poisonous, but she's really amazing. I know a lot of plants and wild fruits. I checked on the internet. What she said is right. There are a few things that can't be found on the internet. At present, I heard that many botanists are rushing to the forest to study those unrecorded plants. Wow, she's so awesome. Half a month later, Liang Chao gained a few pounds. Except for Su He and Bai Wanwan, everyone else grew a little. The two of them were always clean and comfortable. The others were different. They were a little embarrassed, especially Su He and Bai Wanwan. Both of them were sallow and thin. Chui and I and Chui Yuanbin whispered, "Don't offend Tanghua." "Well, brother, let's be friendly to Tanghua in the future. She's very interesting," Chu Nuo said to Bai Ning Shui. Bai Ning Shui raised her head and looked at the woman roasting fish over there. She curled her lips. This is the first time I see Bai Wanwan unable to deal with someone. Since Bai Wanwan came back from abroad, she had changed a lot. She especially found that people who went against Bai Wanwan would be very unlucky. Because of this strangeness, she had always chosen to stay away from Bai Wanwan and try not to have any contact with her. She didn't expect that Bai Wanwan had a nemesis. She only hoped that this nemesis could live for a long time. 2 days later, Chang Yuan called everyone over. The mysterious investor has given you a mission. They've airdropped an item to a specific area in the forest. As long as you find the item before the end of the live broadcast, you'll immediately receive a 100 million yuan reward and invest in a movie for your team. Not to mention the people in front of him. Even the people watching the live broadcast were excited. I really want to know who that mysterious investor is. He can actually play like this. If I had money, I would also invite a big star to play hide. The next day, everyone was ready to go. With the map given by the production team, they began to walk into the depths. The mission this time was actually a little dangerous because there was no one following them, only a miniature camera. Director Chang had also said that the production team had already cordoned off the edges of this area a few days ago, so there wouldn't be any large beasts appearing. Not long after Tanghua and the others left, someone came from the other side of the river. Chang Yuan looked at the person who came and was shocked. The miniature camera was only available to those who participated in the survival mission, so the audience couldn't see what the production team was doing. What brings you here? Chapter 327. Xiao Nye glanced around. Where is she? Chang Yuan reacted immediately and smiled. The investors have a mission. They just entered the forest. Xiao Nye frowned, and Chang Yuan hurriedly invited him in. He wondered if Xiao Nye was serious about Tanghua, but he didn't ask. Actually, he guessed that Tanghua dragged Xiao Nye down with her. She even liked Xiao Nye's comments, and Xiao Nye wasn't angry. I heard that you're preparing for a film? Xiao Nye's frown disappeared. He was in a good mood when he thought of the second female and second male lead roles. Chang Yuan smiled. It seems that you're very satisfied with the new film. Have you chosen the actors? Almost. Chang Yuan was curious. Tanghua is the female lead? No, the second female lead. Xiao Nye denied it. He was in high spirits and added, the perfect role is the second female lead. He even created the perfect second male lead for her. Chang Yuan was shocked. Since when did Xiao Nye become so unprincipled? Even if the school drama had a good response, Tanghua's acting experience wasn't enough for Xiao Nye to decide on the role. As he spoke, Xiao Nye kept staring at the forest, as if he was waiting for someone to appear. Chang Yuan really understood this time that Xiao Nye was tempted. You? Xiao Nye turned around and glanced at Chang Yuan. Are you serious? Xiao Nye frowned and quickly understood what Chang Yuan meant. He paused for a moment and thought of the woman he had seen in the past 2 weeks. He couldn't mistake her for his mother anymore. I think so, he said. Actually, he found it ridiculous that his heart would be affected by that woman. Chang Yuan suddenly understood. No wonder you're unprincipled. I've never had any principles. I just don't like people interfering with my role, Xiaonya said. As for who I give it to, it's up to me. Aren't you afraid that her acting will spoil your film? Xiaonya chuckled. I'm here. A man's confidence. I won't stop her from acting. He trusted her. Chang Yuan shook his head. You're stubborn. You're like your mother. Of course, she gave birth to me. Chang Yuan was speechless. His conversation with Xiaonya had never been smooth. But don't be too optimistic. I think that girl is very vengeful. Even Su and Bai Wanwen have been tormented by her these days. Thinking of this, Chang Yuan also found it funny. Tanghua led Liang Chao to hunt all the surrounding prey that could be hunted and picked all the sweet fruits that could be picked. Only cranberries and wild herbs were left. They only kept what they ate and shared the rest with the others. This led to the program group, except for Su He and Bai Wanwen, to be fed white and fat. It really made people not know whether to laugh or cry. He had never seen such a vengeful person in his entire life. Xiaonya leaned back in his seat and crossed his arms. As long as she's happy. You've fallen for her. If she holds a grudge, the rest of your life won't be easy. Xiaonya smiled. She's already living in my villa. No matter how she spends the rest of her life, she will spend it in my villa. Chang Yuan. She will make you be covered in scandals and scolded by the netizens. She's already done it. Chang Yuan was speechless. Xiaonya continued. As long as she lives in my villa and plays my role, she can do anything else. As long as she's happy. Chang Yuan. Chapter 328. Attention, attention, the helicopter is right above you. It's ready to drop in 5 minutes. The 4 teams all heard the voice from the walkie-talkie. This was prepared for them by the mysterious investor. This investor really knows how to play, Liang Chao said in amusement. He spent a lot of money just to let us come in and look for things. Even if his family was rich, he wouldn't play like this. I'm guessing he's a rich second-generation heir. Liang Chao didn't care about the money and the opportunity to invest in the movie. He didn't lack these things. He just joined for fun. The Chui siblings were different. They came from humble backgrounds and valued this opportunity very much. Chu Nuo and Bai Ning Shui came from good families, but it wasn't to the extent that they didn't care at all. Hence, they liked this game very much. Su He was the young master of the Su family and climbed to the top through his own hard work. This opportunity was very important to him. Speaking of which, we're the ones having the most fun. Liang Chao revealed his big white teeth. You have Xiaonya. You don't lack anything. Compared to Su He now thought that Xiaonya was not bad. At least he would pick resources for Tanghua and support her. Xiaonya was watching the live broadcast with Chang Yuan. When he heard Liang Chao's words, he said, Liang Chao is not bad. Chang Yuan, don't think that I can't tell. It's what Liang Chao said. In the past, he never realized that this person didn't care about principles. I'm planning to let Liang Chao audition for the male lead in my new movie. Chang Yuan wasn't surprised. He just said, as long as you're happy. Seeing that Xiaonya was staring at the woman inside, Chang Yuan shook his head. You have good taste. Chang Yuan watched as Tang Gui avoided the poisonous plants and snakes. Her reaction was especially agile. She stabbed the small knife fiercely. It was so fast and accurate that the poisonous snake was stabbed 7 inches deep. It didn't have time to react at all. On the other hand, Liang Chao was like a little wife. He was scared by the poisonous snake until his face turned pale. He even carefully tugged at Tangua's sleeve. He was so embarrassed. The audience, Best Actor Liang's character is collapsing. Best Actor Liang is so embarrassing. He's actually hiding behind our Tang Tang. My Tang Tang is so cool. With one slash, the poisonous snake didn't even have time to struggle. I'm really curious. Tang Tang has such good skills, but why does she always play my most beautiful role? Sob, sob, sob. Maybe it's a special hobby. At this moment, all the live broadcast interfaces suddenly went dark. The program team was in a state of chaos as they hurriedly contacted all the teams. Xiaonya also sat up with a serious expression. What's going on? Hurry up and check it out. Chang Yuan hurriedly said. Contact them and ask them to come back first. This was a primeval forest. If they didn't know the situation inside, they wouldn't dare to continue broadcasting. The audience watching the live broadcast was also a little confused. Some people even called the program team and asked on the program team's Weibo. The production team only said that it was a special situation. It might have been a place where there was signal interference, and they were actively dealing with it. Host: a magnetic field that interferes with signals has appeared. Do I need to contact the satellite signal directly? Not for now. She took out her phone. Indeed, there was no signal. She couldn't even make a call. Liang Chao was speaking into the walkie-talkie, trying to contact the investors above. Just now, it was said that there would be items airdropped. However, there was no reaction. Chapter 329. Best Actor Sue, can you hear me? A voice came from the walkie-talkie. Sue was stunned for a moment.
Yes.
That's good. Your current location has been disrupted. The production team has informed you to leave first. Okay. The Chui siblings, by Ning Shui, and Chu Nua's team also received the message from the walkie-talkie. They didn't dare to continue and walked out. When they came out, the signal appeared. They appeared on the live broadcast screen at the same time. The audience heaved a sigh of relief. At this moment, someone realized that Tang Hua and Liang Chao hadn't come out. Where are Best Actor Liang and Tang Tang? Maybe they went in deeper and came out after a while. Everyone else thought so. It didn't make sense that the other three teams had received the message, but Tang Hua's team hadn't. Hence, they were very relieved. But half an hour later, they couldn't stay calm anymore. Xiaonya stood up from his seat. Get someone to look for them. Chang Yuan's face darkened. They hadn't come out for so long. He quickly called the investors. We've already informed Tang Hua and Best Actor Liang. As for why they haven't come out, we don't know. Chang Yuan didn't suspect anything. Based on their behavior, it was very likely that they didn't want to come out and continued to play inside. Then please contact them again. Okay, we'll try. A minute later, a voice came from the other side. Director Chang, we can't contact them either. The call ended. Chang Yuan didn't dare to delay. Nothing could happen to the two of them. One was the young master of the Liang family, and the other was the woman of the genius director beside him. If anything happened to them, he would have a hard time in the entertainment industry. Chang Yuan immediately ordered the rescue team to go in and look for them. Xiaonya said, I'll go too. Chang Yuan didn't say anything. Xiaonya was quite skilled, and there were people he valued inside. There was no reason to reject him. Xiaoguo, there's no signal. Why don't we go out and see what's going on? This was a primeval forest. Even though this area had been confirmed to be safe, it was still quite dangerous. If two beasts came, he might not be able to defeat them. Tang Hua stood in place. The corner of her mouth raised into a sneer. Go out? Why? I'm afraid someone doesn't want us to go out. Liang Chao was shocked. What did you say? Just now, the system had already informed Tang Hua that a group of people was sneaking over. These people were all carrying real weapons. Liang Chao still wanted to ask something, but Tang Hua suddenly grabbed his wrist and quickly dodged. He only heard a bang sound. Something brushed past his face. He looked back and saw a bullet deeply embedded in a tree trunk. His heart was overwhelmed with shock, and his face paled considerably. What happened? I'm the only successor of the Liang family. Everyone gets along very well. There shouldn't be anyone who wants to snatch the family property from me and kill me, right? Tang Hua pursed her lips and pulled Liang Chao to run as fast as she could. Host, to the left, dodge. Host, there is someone in front of you. Tang Hua narrowed her eyes. Got it. Connect me to the satellite signal. At the same time, cut off the communication of these killers so that they are completely cut off from the outside world. Since the other party dared to take her life, she was going to broadcast the scene of these people chasing after her. Understood. Host, can you do it? Do you want me to find 2 weapons for you from the system space? The system was still very worried. If the host was killed, it would be very unhappy. Chapter 330. There's no need. Dear host, the live broadcast has been connected. The system was being considerate. At this time, he couldn't even give her a weapon even if he wanted to. In front of the whole country's audience, If something appeared out of nowhere, it could be caught and cut into pieces. Liang Chao also reacted. Even if he hadn't eaten pork, he had seen pigs run. It was obvious that someone wanted his or Tangwa's life. After Tangwa helped him dodge twice, he calmed down. Should we go outside? No, Tangwa said. Do you think they're so well prepared that they wouldn't set a trap outside? They even brought the real thing. They must have come prepared. There must be something more terrible waiting for us outside. Liang Chao's brain worked quickly. Then we can only go inside? His expression was a little ugly. If they went inside, they would be in the depths of the forest. Wild beasts, poisonous plants, and insects were all very deadly. If they were not careful, they could lose their lives. Let's run. Tangwa ran quickly. Banging sounds rang in her ears. Every time a bullet was about to hit her, she nimbly dodged it. After she let go of Liang Chao, she finally realized that the bullets were aimed at her. Don't worry about me. Liang Chao also realized that the killers weren't aiming at him. He quickly distanced himself from Tangwa. It wasn't that he was afraid of being hit, but it was easy to focus on the target when the two of them were together. It was much more flexible to run separately. With Tangwa's skills, it was easy to avoid danger. And the killers behind them wouldn't let him go. After he distanced himself, there were still missiles flying past him. There's a scene. Hey, what's going on? Why is Tang Tang running so fast? She seems to be hiding from something. Bang! A gunshot rang out, and everyone who was watching was stunned. Oh my god, it's bullets. Someone is shooting at Tang Tang. And Best Actor Liang too. They're being chased. How can this be? Who is it? The audience was in an uproar. Even if many people hated Tangwa, they couldn't help but break out in cold sweat when they saw bullets flying towards her body. Until now, she had avoided all of them. But judging from the number of people shooting at Tangwa, there were many of them. The comments on the bullet screen continued to float. They were all questioning the production team as to how such a thing could have happened. At the same time, the program team's Weibo was also flooded. Because of the extraordinary influence of Tangwa and Liang Chao, the relevant departments that originally did not pay attention to reality shows also knew about it. When they turned on the live broadcast, they saw Liang Chao and Tangwa quickly dodging the bullets. Moreover, in the live broadcast interface, they also discovered the assassin in camouflage who was chasing after the two of them. Immediately, the country dispatched special forces to the primeval forest to rescue the two. The special forces planned to land in the air. If they didn't use this method, it was very likely that the two people inside would die before their men arrived. In less than half an hour, this vile killing had caused a sensation throughout the country. Even those who didn't usually watch live broadcasts took out their phones to watch. Everyone was worried about the two of them, hoping that they could hold on until the arrival of the special forces. On Xiao Nie's side, he had already entered the signal-jammed area. He didn't know that Tangwa was being chased. On the other hand, everyone in the program team was in disbelief when they saw the shocking scene. Chapter 331. Another bullet flew over. Tangwa wrapped her arms around a tree trunk and spun quickly, using the momentum to jump far away. She picked a lot of vines with leaves and wrapped them around her body quickly. If it wasn't for the short filming period, she wouldn't have been easily discovered hiding in the grass. The whole country was dumbfounded. Is she really the kind of actress who only plays my most beautiful role? She's so good at fighting. Even the killers can't do anything to her. I wonder where she learned it. No matter what, as long as she survives this time, I'll definitely be her fan. I'll be her fan from now on. Tang Tang, you can do it. Tang Tang, you'll be fine. The anti-fans were also a little silent. Although this woman was annoying, she didn't deserve to die. With so many people shooting at the same time, if she made a slight mistake, she would definitely die. At the Family Tang Club. Mom, look, isn't that my sister? The teenager held the tablet and stared at the screen without blinking. When he saw the familiar face, he ran downstairs. Mom, look, sister is being hunted down. His family wasn't allowed to mention Tangwa. Tang Rue also heard the discussion in the group that there were two celebrities streaming the battle. He was a little interested, so he clicked on it. He didn't expect that one of the celebrities being hunted down was actually his sister. His hands were trembling. Although his family was very angry with Tangwa, if something really happened to her, his parents would definitely be heartbroken. When Mrs. Tang saw the scene, she almost fainted. She quickly called Mr. Tang. In an instant, the family Tang Club was in chaos. At the same time, the Liang family also found out. The entire Liang family gathered together. Their only heir was being hunted down. This matter, no matter what the reason was simply a slap to their face. There are 10 more people, Tangwa said. Liang Chao's face was ugly. Let's split up. This way, they may be divided into 2 groups. Tangwa followed the sound and the system's instructions and quickly avoided them. At the same time, she sized up the environment. The air here was moist, and there was a little moss. Some parts of the ground were very flat, bare, and black. The area wasn't big, but it was enough for her to determine the geographical situation here. From now on, you will follow me. Liang Chao nodded. He realized that Tangwa was very powerful. He followed Tangwa from a distance and heard Tangwa's reminder. If you encounter a lot of moss, don't step on some very flat areas. Also, don't step on some black flat areas. These could be swamps. Hearing the word swamp, not only were the people watching the live broadcast terrified, even Liang Chao's heart trembled. Isn't this the real survival of the wild? Tangwa smiled and said, "That's right. I hope that this show will be #1 in the ratings." The audience watching the live broadcast said, "You should be worried about your lives. As for the viewership ratings, you don't have to worry at all. The entire country is watching you." I, Tang Tang, am awesome. Best actor Liang isn't bad either. If it was someone else, they would have been hit long ago. Liang Chao already knew what Tangwa was going to do. The 2 of them picked up a lot of stones along the way. When they saw a large patch of moss in the distance, they split up and moved forward. The killers behind them only cared about completing their mission. They didn't know that the 2 of them would suddenly rush back and throw stones at them. In the eyes of the audience, Tangwa's figure was like a ghost. She leaped behind the enemies and kicked them into the swamp. Chapter 332. Liang Chao's skills were not bad either. After all, he was an extreme sports enthusiast. The 2 of them found an opportunity and hit each other's wrists with stones. Before the other party could react, they rushed into the crowd. They were all using long-range guns. Facing their close-range attacks, they could only choose to fight hand-to-hand. If it were other people, they would definitely not be able to defeat more than 20 of them. But the 2 in front of them, one of them had loved extreme sports since childhood and had learned Taekwondo. The other was Tangwa, who had traveled through countless worlds and had all kinds of fighting skills and techniques. Wouldn't they be courting death if they met her? In about 5 minutes, all the assassins were thrown into the swamp. They mainly relied on firearms to kill. Although they were good at fighting, they still panicked when facing the swamp. As for their guns, they had been taken away by the 2 of them and thrown aside. More than 20 people were in the swamp and did not dare to move at all. Everything happened too quickly. The spectators did not even have time to react. These people were trapped in the swamp by Tangwa and Liang Chao. They were stunned. My candy is awesome. My Zhao is not bad either. Tang Tang, go and film martial arts movies in the future. The next female martial arts star will be you. Ah, you were so handsome just now. My candy is really good. Ah, I want to marry you. Boo-hoo, I want to marry you too. I'm a guy, but I still want to marry you. Tangwa looked at these people. They were all foreigners. Who sent you here? She asked in English. Her fluency in speaking won her another wave of fans. Your bodies are sinking. The assassins' expressions finally changed. They did not dare to move because they were sinking, but they still did not say who sent them. In fact, they did not know who hired them. They were international assassins and they killed for money. Tangwa had obviously expected this. She turned around and walked to the guns. She picked them up and started to dismantle them. Clattering sounds were heard. In the eyes of the audience, the dangerous weapons were dismantled into pieces. They all saw the assassins' heartbroken expressions. In the end, Tangwa even took out the bullets and threw them into the swamp. She also threw the weapons in at the same time. Ah, Tang Tang, don't waste natural resources. Those guys are very expensive. At this very moment, I only have one thing to say. I kneel in admiration. Tangwa still kept a gun. They thought she would use it to threaten the killers in the swamp. They didn't expect that she would raise her hand and shoot, followed by a bird falling down. What happened to protecting animals? After Liang Chao ran over to pick up the bird, an audience member explained, "This is not a protected species. It can be eaten." They saw Tangwa shoot down the birds flying above one by one, and they couldn't help but be stunned. Her skills were so good, and her marksmanship was also good. No one questioned why Tangwa knew all this. Now that they were acting, they might really learn these things for their roles. However, it was still surprising that he had learned it so well. Even some big shots in the military were tempted. Did this girl join the wrong profession? That's right. He's a good seedling. If he joins our army, his future will be limitless. Let's wait for her to come out and ask if she's willing to be a soldier. The kind with lots of benefits. Forget it, old man. She can make tens of millions just by acting in a movie. Can you afford it? When Xiaonya appeared, Tangwa and Liang Chao were eating roasted birds. The two of them were eating with relish. Chapter 333. Xiaonya glanced at the people in the swamp and then at the bird next to Tangwa. He immediately guessed what had happened. He walked up to Tangwa and sat down. He took the bird meat from her hand and started to eat it. Tangwa was speechless. The audience was speechless. Director Chow is so down to earth, but Tang Tang nibbled on that. Does that count as an indirect kiss? Hey, don't they live together? They must have done more intimate things. What's a kiss? I think so. Tangwa roasted another bird for herself. To be honest, wild animals were delicious. After running for so long, she was a bit hungry. Liang Chao didn't see anything. The fact that Xiaonya was here meant that Tangwa was very important to him. I'm here to talk to you about the role of the second female lead in the new show. After eating the bird meat, Xiaonya went into the main topic. Seriously, I changed it a bit. See if you like it when we go out. The audience was speechless. Director Chiao doesn't mean what he says. He's here to talk to Tang Tang about the new show. He's obviously worried about her. Yeah, and he said it so seriously. I almost believed him. Director Chiao's character has collapsed. Have you noticed that anyone who meets our Guagua has their character collapsed? Tangwa looked at Xiaonya. What did you change? Nothing. I changed your character. It suits you very well. I also changed the second male lead. Xiaonya narrowed his eyes. I'm very satisfied. Tangwa blinked. You're here to talk to me about the new show? Yes. Xiaonya turned his head to the side, but his ears were a bit red. The audience noticed and started to scream. Director Chiao, do you not know that you're on a live broadcast? That's possible. Ha ha ha. Let's wait for Director Chiao's character to collapse. Tangwa smiled. Since you're satisfied, you don't have to show it to me. I'll be the second female lead. Okay. Xiaonya responded. He looked around and said in a low voice, You'll be in all my shows in the future. You can choose whatever role you want. If you're not satisfied, I'll change it for you. Audience, oh. Director Chiao, please give me a dozen of them. So greasy. Wasn't there a rumor that Director Chiao had booked Tangwa a while ago? I don't think there's a mistake. She's a mistress for life. Liang Chao was embarrassed, not to mention Chang Yuan, who had rushed over with the rescue team. This Xiao Nia really had no principles. That's what you said. Tangwa smiled. If I ruin your reputation in the future, you can't blame me. There was only a smile left in Xiao Nia's gloomy eyes. I won't blame you, as long as you're happy. Not long after, the special forces arrived and parachuted down from the sky. The 20 members looked at Tangwa and Liang Chao with complicated expressions. This mission was the easiest. They didn't have to do anything, and they had already arrested a wave of criminals. They had all watched the live broadcast on the helicopter and were full of admiration for Tangwa and Liang Chao, especially a delicate female celebrity like Tangwa, who had changed their view of celebrities. When they arrived in front of Tangwa, they all saluted her. At that time, Tangwa was nibbling on a bird. The scene was very funny. Are you guys hungry? Tangwa pointed at a skewer of roasted birds. Do you want one? The entire country's audience was laughing so hard that their abs almost popped out. The special forces definitely wouldn't agree. After expressing their gratitude, they want to get the killers out of the swamp. Chapter 334. She's out. Chui and I shouted as she stared in the direction of the forest. Tanghua was carried out by Xiaonie. If they hadn't watched the live broadcast, they would have thought that she was injured. God knows how they felt when Tanghua said that she was tired and couldn't walk. Xiaonie squatted down and said, "I'll carry you." What a show of affection. Tanghua was naturally happy that she didn't have to walk. Someone carried her on his back, so it was a waste not to be lazy. People all over the country watched the woman humming a tune on Director Qiao's back, shaking her legs, and rubbing Director Qiao's hair from time to time. Soon, Director Qiao had a chicken's nest hairstyle of Tanghua. People all over the country were strangely quiet for a minute, and then they picked up their mobile phones to send bullet comments. Suhi looked at the two people with a complicated expression and pursed his lips tightly. He really didn't expect that Xiaonie would spoil that woman so much. He found that he had never understood her. She was good at survival in the wild, had good skills, and knew how to use firearms. So what didn't she know? In the face of ruthless killers, she could calmly determine the direction of escape and use a place like the swamp to wipe out the other party. At this time, she was so girly that she was willing to be carried by a man. There was a wanton smile on her lips, and the man named Xiaonie's gloomy eyes couldn't hide the warmth. The curve of his lips showed that he was willing to do it. Only then did he realize that she had so many advantages. But why did she betray him? If she hadn't betrayed him, he wouldn't have gone to buy one. Suddenly, he remembered that they had been together for so many years. Except for the 2 years when they were officially boyfriend and girlfriend, she was by his side when the Su family was defeated. Suhi was a little confused. Why did the woman who had been so good to him leave him in the end? He couldn't understand. He still couldn't understand. Because of this, he hated her so much. He wanted to destroy her. How could she smile so happily? She hurt him, but she could still be so happy. She shouldn't have been with his enemy. No, he wouldn't forgive her. By one found that Suhi was looking at Tanghua with complicated eyes. She held Suhi's hand. Don't forget, this is a woman who betrayed you. How did she deal with you before? Suhi's face darkened. Don't worry. I don't have any thoughts about her. I'm just curious as to why this woman hides so deeply. The reality show The Celebrity Who Walked into the Big Forest shocked the audience all over the country, especially the accident at the end, where the two actors were being chased by the assassins. It made the show explode. After coming out, Chang Yuan knew that he had also become popular. Tanghua was even more popular, followed by Liang Chao. Tanghua's vigorous skills and the scene of her dealing with the assassins had been preserved by countless people. The final moment when he hit the bird was also made into a small video. It could be said that Tanghua was completely on fire this time. No matter who she was, no matter how bad the rumors about her were, she had gained a large number of die-hard fans based on her performance on the live broadcast. Even among the anti-fans, many of them had changed sides. Behind the scenes, the Liang family and Family Tang were investigating who had hired the assassins. These people were all foreigners, habitual criminals in international investigations. They didn't show their faces in the transaction, so they couldn't get anything out of them. Tong, find that person through the network. Chapter 335. Tanghua dialed Chang Yuan's number. Chang Yuan was surprised to hear the voice on the other end. What's the matter, little Tang? He thought that the reality show would be cancelled, but because of the help of the people in the country, the show would continue. However, they would make more preparations for safety in the future. No matter what, he had a good impression of Tanghua. This reality show was probably the most popular show in his life. He might not be able to surpass it in the future, and no one would perform better than Tanghua. Director Chang, I want to ask, who was the mysterious investor from before? Chang Yuan was surprised. Originally, he would not reveal this to Tanghua, but because of the relationship between Tanghua and Xiaonie, he said directly, "It's President Wei." Which President Wei? Chang Yuan felt that Tanghua's voice was strange, but he did not think too much about it. That was just an accident. No one would connect it to the investor. Wei Chuan. He heard Tang Gua laugh and say, "It's really him. Got it. I won't disturb Director Chang anymore." The call was hung up. Chang Yuan's eyelids kept twitching. He vaguely felt that something was wrong. He quickly called Xiao Nye and told him what had happened. Xiao Nye asked, "The mysterious investor is Wei Chuan?" Chang Yuan did not understand, but he still nodded. "Yes. Got it." The call was hung up. Chang Yuan was confused. In the end, he was speechless. They were family. This couple was really strange. Before Tang Gua could do anything, a lawyer's letter appeared on Xiao Nye Studios' Weibo, attracting the attention of the entire country. After reading it, everyone was shocked. This lawyer's letter was sent to the Wei Corporation, and it even asked Wei Chuan to give an explanation. At the same time, Xiao Nye pointed out a few points, saying that he was also there. The moment the signal was cut off, Chang Yuan contacted the investors. He told them to inform the people inside that the plan had changed and to come out first. When the other three groups came out, Tang Gua and Liang Chao did not appear. Chang Yuan contacted the investors. The other party's reply was, "We've already informed Tang Gua and Best Actor Liang. As for why they haven't come out yet, we don't know." Chang Yuan asked them to contact the other party again. After a while, the other party said that they couldn't reach Tang Gua. This scene could be found in the live broadcast interface because the others had come out. The lawyer's letter pointed out that Xiao Nye had asked Tang Gua after the incident. She said that after the signal was cut off, she tried to contact the other party with the walkie-talkie, but there was no response. As soon as the post was posted, it caused a huge uproar. While everyone was still in doubt, Liang Chao quietly reposted the Weibo post with a comment. "The signal was disrupted, so I tried to contact the other party through the walkie-talkie, but there was no response. I never received any message to let us out. As for why the signal came back later, I think it might be because we ran out of the area where the signal was jammed." Everyone finally took these words seriously and looked at the Wei Corporation suspiciously. Was it an oversight, or was it a deliberate targeting? As for the killers, they didn't suspect the Wei Corporation. Tang Gua didn't have any enmity with them. Tang Gua pushed open Xiao Nye's study and leaned against the door. "Anya, you're so fast." Xiao Nye raised his head and looked at the woman who was wearing a thin nightgown with wet hair. "Why didn't you blow-dry your hair?" "I don't want to. I'm lazy." Chapter 336. Get the hairdryer. I'll help you dry it. "I'm too lazy to walk. I don't want to move." Xiao Nye was speechless. Xiao Nye stood up, walked in front of Tang Gua, picked her up, and walked outside. He put her on the sofa, turned his head to look for a hairdryer, and plugged it in. First, he used a dry towel to dry her dripping hair and said, "Are you satisfied?" "Not bad." Xiao Nye started to dry her hair, and Tang Gua leaned against him in satisfaction. System. Where is the host's integrity? What happened to Xiao Nye's weird temper? Why was his host destroying his image? After drying her hair, Tang Gua handed him a comb. Xiao Nye took it and combed her hair. "It's good to have someone to serve me. Anya, I'll leave the hair drying to you." Xiao Nye's hand paused for a moment before he suddenly said, "Then do I have to wake you up and get you dressed?" This woman was getting out of hand. Tang Gua looked into his eyes and smiled. "I don't object if you want. Are you sure you want to get me out of bed and get me dressed?" "Huh." Seeing Xiao Nye's ears turn red, Tang Gua was satisfied. What an old virgin. She put her hands on Xiao Nye's chest and smiled. "Do you know how to help a woman put on a bra?" Xiao Nye froze. He looked into the woman's smiling eyes and regretted giving in to her. "If you don't know, you can learn so that you won't be flustered. Dry it." Xiao Nye pushed her away. "Behave yourself." Tang Gua wasn't angry. She took the opportunity to sit beside him. "Anya, do you like me? Look at you. You let me choose the role in the script, send a lawyer's letter to the Wei Corporation, and do everything for me. You even helped me dry my hair." She stared into Xiao Nye's eyes and chuckled. "Isn't that liking you?" Xiao Nye didn't say anything and put the hairdryer back. "It's fine if you don't want to admit it. Anyway, I'll live in your house and eat your food from now on. I'll make you pay for all the harm you've done to me for the rest of your life." Hearing this, Xiao Nye, who had his back to Tang Gua, smiled. That was exactly what he was thinking. Repay? He would give her everything she wanted. At this moment, Tangua's phone rang. It was Zhu Yi. Guogua, the Wei group called. They want to meet you. How could he not look for Tangua? Because of Xiao Nie's lawyer's letter, the Wei Corporation's stock price had been falling. Tangua and Liang Chao's influence was too great. The whole country wanted the Wei Corporation to give an explanation. Tangua was not surprised that Liang Chao was also invited to the restaurant booked by the Wei Group. But when he saw those familiar faces in his memory, this was unexpected. The family Tang came. Although Mr. and Mrs. Tang looked serious, their gazes were filled with warmth when they looked at her. Tang Rui didn't think too much. He walked quickly to Tangua and called out happily, "Sister, I'm here." Tangua smiled and walked to Mr. and Mrs. Tang. "Dad, Mom." Mr. and Mrs. Tang's expression softened. Mrs. Tang couldn't help but cry. "Guogua, come back." This scene was captured by the reporters. At this moment, they realized that Tangua was the daughter of the Tang Corporation. Then, the rumors said that Tangua had abandoned him for fame and fortune, but she was the daughter of the Tang Corporation. She was born with a silver spoon in her mouth. If she wanted to survive in the entertainment industry, it would be a piece of cake. Chapter 337. Mr. Tang and Mrs. Tang looked at Xiao Nie and then at each other without saying anything. Thinking of a scene in the live broadcast, their daughter said she was tired, and this man squatted down without saying a word. They were a little moved by that scene. Forget it, no matter. Although Xiao Nie had the strangest temper in the industry, he was much better than that heartless Su He. Besides, Xiao Nie was also the son of their good friend. There was no problem with his character. "I'm really sorry for the trouble I caused you last time." Wei Chuan was smiling, but there was no fluctuation in his eyes. His cold and hard facial features gave people the feeling that he was a very cold person. If you looked at him more, it would always make people tremble involuntarily. "It's him. I recognize him. It's him. He was the one who hit me with his car and threw me into the woods." A shadow floated out of a jade pendant on Tangua's body. Except for Tangua, no one else could see it. The woman's originally soft face suddenly became ferocious. She looked at Wei Chuan and wanted to pounce on him. "Come back." The woman's ferocious face calmed down and she returned to Tangua's side. The others looked at Tangua strangely. What did she say just now? Tangua laughed. "Sorry, I was too immersed in the role." "Was it?" "System, investigate Wei Chuan and find evidence of his crimes." "Don't worry, the host. This kind of small thing is very easy." The system was very happy. The host finally asked for its help. With Tangua's words, the system instantly invaded Wei Chuan's mobile phone and began to search for evidence of his crimes. He also investigated the shady business that the Wei Group had been doing in the dark, such as tax evasion. The system also found evidence of Wei Chuan hiring a murderer and a scene of Wei Chuan and Bai Wenwen meeting. It followed the internet and went abroad. It finally figured out how Wei Chuan and Bai Wenwen knew each other. The fast transmigrator was abroad and happened to meet Wei Chuan. Wei Chuan was interested in Bai Wenwen, but now it was unclear. Bai Wenwen's goal was Su He, but she would not let go of a lucky man like Wei Chuan. Bai Wenwen was able to return to China and enter the entertainment industry successfully because of Wei Chuan's help. Even if Wei Chuan was such a possessive person, he could only help Bai Wenwen silently. Wei Chuan had joined in the middle of the last reality show. From the beginning, he had decided that Tangua would never come back. The reason was that Tangua took the role of the second female lead in the high school romance drama, stealing Bai Wenwen's limelight and making Bai Wenwen unhappy. Wei Chuan's hands weren't clean to begin with, and he treated life like grass. Later, when he saw how Tangua bullied Bai Wenwen through the live broadcast, he simply made adjustments and hired international mercenaries to kill Tangua. He didn't expect Tangua to be so powerful that she could wipe out all the international mercenaries. What surprised him even more was that Xiao Nie had sent him a lawyer's letter and was preparing to sue the Wei Corporation. In the past few days, not only Xiao Nie, but the family Tang and the Liang family had also joined forces to deal with the Wei family. This had indeed made him a little flustered. He didn't think that the other party knew that he was the one who hired the mercenaries. It was only because this matter had something to do with the Wei family that he was being unreasonable. Invite them over, apologize, and the matter would be over. Dear host, a few days ago, Bai Wenwen had successfully captured Wei Chuan, and her favorability had reached 100. The system reminded her. Tanghua glanced at Wei Chuan. Well, then give the evidence you collected to my parents, the Liang family, and Xiaonya. She was lazy. Too lazy to do anything. Chapter 338. Wei Corporation. Wei Chuan hired a murderer. Wei Chuan ran over a corpse. Wei Corporation tax evasion. Wei Corporation illegal trade in an instant. Wei Chuan's Wei Corporation was on the top 5 trending searches. Weibo's netizens were all shocked when they saw the news. They clicked on it in surprise, but when they came out, they were angry and weak. Wei Chuan was arrested in the villa. At that time, he even scolded the police and demanded an explanation. When he arrived at the police station and a series of evidence was presented, what awaited him was severe legal punishment. All the crimes on the list were enough to make him suffer. The police had already sued him. At the same time, the Liang family, Family Tang, and Xiaonya had joined forces. The Wei Corporation had completely collapsed. The family of the woman who had been run over and thrown away also sued Wei Chuan. The woman's boyfriend also came to the police station to see Wei Chuan. If someone hadn't stopped him, he would have cut him with a knife. Wei Chuan alone had caused so much harm to so many people because of the live broadcast of Tanghua and Liang Chao escaping. It didn't matter if Wei Chuan was a CEO or a self-made rich man. He would spend his next life in prison. They couldn't wait for him to die. Thank you. The woman who was already a ghost looked at Tanghua gratefully. Thank you so much. I want to ask you for a favor. Can you do me a favor? You want to see your family and boyfriend? The female ghost nodded. I just want to see them one last time. The moment Wei Chuan was executed, she felt that she wouldn't be able to stay here for long. Tanghua took out a talisman. Go and find them. Stick this talisman between your eyebrows, and they will be able to see you. Werwa, thank you so much. The female ghost took the talisman and glanced at Tanghua. I hope you and Xiaonya can have a happy ending soon. He is a good person. Tanghua snorted. Don't forget that you are a ghost, not a matchmaker. Aya, I'm just telling the truth. Xiaonya is really good to you. The female ghost's attitude changed instantly. It's true, Guogua. Xiaonya is much better than Suhi. Suhi is a dog. One look, and you can tell that he is heartless. All right, I know there's no comparison between the two. Suhi's ending won't be any better than Wei Chuan's. Facing Tang was smiling face. The female ghost's heart trembled. She was worried for nothing. How could Suhi do anything to this woman named Tanghua? It should be Suhi who was worried about her. Then I'm leaving. The female ghost blinked. Thank you so much. If it weren't for you, I might have turned into a malicious spirit and never been able to reincarnate. Tanghua nods and watches the female ghost float away. According to the original plot, the female ghost would eventually find out that Wei Chuan was the one who really hit her. However, with the appearance of Bai Wenwen, she suppressed the female ghost with a talisman and finally took it for her own use. At that time, when the original owner drove her car to hit Bai Wenwen's wedding car, it was actually this ghost who blocked it. The rebound force knocked the original owner off the bridge. Until she left this world, the female ghost should be treated as energy and absorbed by 875. Oh, then she's really unlucky. The system was speechless when it heard the host's not-so-sincere sigh. How much is Bai Wenwen's favorability towards Suhi? It's already reached 90. Tanghua frowns. So slow? Dear host, let me ask you weakly. Is your purpose to let Suhi be successfully conquered? I have a bold idea. Please say. When Suhi is successfully conquered, you can eat 875 and see how the two of them develop. Tanghua is excited. It should be very interesting. Chapter 339. The filming for Xiaonya's new film began. Liang Chao was the male lead while the female lead was played by an actress named Nie Lingling who was very capable. To Tanghua's surprise, the second male lead was Chu Nuo. By the time filming began, Lin Yiqian finally understood why everyone said that Xiaonya had a bad temper. Even Chu Nua and Ye Lingling, who were skilled actors, would be scolded by Xiao Nye at least 10 times for every scene. Almost none of the scenes were seen, not even by Tanghua. However, when it came to Tanghua, everyone realized how unprincipled Xiao Nye was. For example, Xiao Nye felt that there was not enough emotion in one scene between the second female lead and the second male lead. First, he scolded Chu Nua, while Chu Nua quietly endured it. After all, it was worth it to be scolded 100 times for Xiao Nye's film. But when it came to Tanghua, Xiao Nye pulled her in front of him and asked her to watch him instruct her. He didn't say a single harsh word. He just said softly, "Do you remember?" "Yes," Tanghua said with a smile. "Okay. Are you tired?" Xiao Nye asked with a straight face. "I'm fine. Are you hungry?" "A little. Let's eat something before we start filming." Everyone laughed. Chu Nua was not sure if she should say something right now. "What do you want to eat?" "I'll get someone to buy it." "I'll get it. I'll get it." Zhui immediately jumped out. "Director, we're hungry too." "We're tired too," Liang Chao said. "Director, let's get more food and let everyone have a bite." "Are you hungry?" Xiao Nye did not even look at Liang Chao. "Tired? We've only been filming for 2 hours. It's 3:00 in the afternoon. It's only 3 hours before lunch, and you're already complaining about being tired? As qualified actors, please show some professionalism. I don't want to hear anyone complaining about being tired while filming here." "Oh, little E, go get some food and share it with everyone." Tanghua chuckled. "Our director is too strict. Actors are humans too. They get tired and hungry too." Liang Chao and the others hurriedly nodded. That was right. Not only were they physically tired, but they were also mentally tired. The serious Xiao Nye suddenly changed his demeanor. "Since you're all tired, let's rest for half an hour." He called his assistant and asked him to buy some food. Liang Chao nibbled on a drumstick and patted Chu Nua, who had a bitter expression on his face. He comforted, "Next time, when you're tired or hungry, you can definitely look for Xiao Guo." Xiao Nye is especially unprincipled in front of Xiao Guo. He changes his attitude faster than flipping a book. "I've understood it today." Chu Nua nodded. "The key to not getting scolded is Tanghua." "That's right." Nye Lingling came over with a smile and sat next to the two of them. "Actually, after working with director Chiao for so many movies, this is the first time I felt so relaxed working on his movies. Back then, I had to take 30 pictures before I could pass one. Every picture would be scolded more than 10 times, so I'm already used to it. Just like today, I passed with at most 10. It was really too easy." "Chunu, scary." "Sister Lingling, don't be afraid." Liang Chao winked. "From now on, Xiaogu will be in every movie that Xiao Nye directs." Nye Lingling's eyes lit up as she laughed. "That's great. Haha, I'm going to tell everyone this good news." Xiao Nye's movie was a suspenseful crime movie. The content of the movie was highly emotional. It talked about high IQ criminals and the complicated relationships between a few people. The male lead was a police officer while the female lead was a forensic doctor. The supporting female lead was originally a doctor who later became a forensic doctor for the male lead. This was a serial murder case. There were both men and women who were killed. At first, no motive could be found at all. Chapter 340. The people who were killed died very miserably. They were labeled as perverted murderers. If they hadn't seen the ending, almost no one would have guessed who the murderer was. The name of the movie was Who's the Murderer? The male lead was a very righteous police officer and could be said to be upright and plain-spoken. The female lead was smart and beautiful, also full of justice. She had a slightly domineering personality and was quarrelsome with the male lead. The second female lead was cute and had a warm and moving smile. The second male lead was the second female lead's classmate and was also her childhood sweetheart. He also liked the second female lead since they were young. No matter who the second female lead liked, he liked her silently and never tried to destroy her. Of course, there were also various important characters mixed in to fully display the blurry color of the movie. As the plot gradually unfolded, the victims had done some things that angered people and gods when they were alive, such as violating young boys and girls. When this important clue was discovered, the male and female leads started to investigate the background of the murderer. The second male lead was first suspected. This was because he had been molested by a female teacher when he was young. However, the result of the investigation was that the second male lead had an alibi. They then shifted their attention. By chance, the male lead found out that the second female lead had also been hurt by a monster teacher. Moreover, that teacher was the first victim. They locked their eyes on the second female lead and felt that she was very likely to be the murderer. Just as the second female lead was being detained for investigation, another victim appeared. This made everyone feel that the case was tricky and at the same time dispelled their suspicions of the second female lead. This victim died in the same way as the previous one. At first, they thought that they wouldn't find any clues, but later, they found evidence at the murder scene. It was a piece of debris that was identified as falling from a brand of watch. They quickly locked onto the target. The watch was bought by the second female lead as a birthday present for the second male lead. Therefore, the murderer was the second male lead. After the second male lead was arrested, he readily admitted that he had done everything. He had always liked the second female lead. Later on, that teacher pestered the second female lead, so he secretly killed the second female lead. The following cases happened one after another. The case should have ended like this, but on the day of the trial, another murder case appeared. The trial had to be suspended, and they went to the murder scene. On the highest rooftop in the city, they saw the second female lead holding a scalpel. She still had a bright and warm smile on her face. When she saw that everyone had arrived, she only said one sentence, "Let him go. I did everything, including the person who died in the detention center. I killed him too." This was the backup plan she had left behind to prove her alibi. However, she did not expect to be noticed by the second male lead, who smashed a piece of the watch and threw it on the ground. She narrated her life on the rooftop. The children who had been violated by the deceased all came. Their originally dazed gazes were filled with vigor when they saw her. The children called out, "Big sister." After the second female lead finished talking about her crime, she said to the children, "Don't learn from me. Killing is against the law. Children, forget the past. Your new life has begun. The people who hurt you have already been punished, and I will be punished as well. Live well." She didn't look at the male and female leads. Instead, she gave the second male lead an affectionate look. That look of love was enough to break one's heart. She said to the male lead, "You should take the children away." After the children were taken away, she jumped from the highest building and ended her young life. Chapter 341. Everyone in the crew felt a little heavy after filming this movie. Then they saw the second female lead, Tangwa, who should have been more depressed than them, smiling as she waited for Xiaonya to feed her the ice cream. Everyone's heavy hearts disappeared at that moment. All the actors. "Fuck. This works too. Give me another box." After eating one box, Tangwa still felt unsatisfied. Xiaonya refused. "No. It's okay to eat one more box. Your period is coming soon." All the actors. "Fuck." Tangwa was surprised. You actually remember my period. Xiaonya, are you thinking of having a baby with me?" Tangwa hugged Xiaonya's arm. "So you're so sinister. You actually want to stuff a baby in my stomach." Xiaonya, Liang Chao burst out laughing. "Ha ha ha ha. Isn't this too funny? Stuff a baby? Ha ha ha. Xiaonya wants to secretly stuff a baby in Xiaogua's stomach?" Xiaonya's ears turned red. He coughed lightly. "No such thing." But everyone didn't believe him. If it wasn't for the baby, why would he remember the date of her period so clearly? They really didn't expect Director Chao to be such a person. It was rare for her to have some free time. Tangwa curled up on the sofa and scrolled through Weibo. She realized that there were fewer people scolding her. Of course, there were fewer people scolding Xiaonya, which made her a little unhappy. So she moved her fingers and posted on Weibo. "Why aren't you scolding me anymore?" The onlooking fans, passers-by, and the anti-fans. "Fans, Tang Tang is so cute, we won't scold you. Also, we are Tang Tang's fans." Passers-by, "We don't have the habit of scolding people for no reason." Anti-fans, "We can't be bothered to scold you. Even if we scold you, you'll still be happily showing off your love with someone." Host, This batch of anti-fans is terrible. Yes, I agree. They have no professionalism and are especially unqualified. They have no principles at all. The anti-fans were actually very depressed. They originally had many groups called Anti-Fans 1, 2, and 3. Now they only had one anti-fans group left. The 2, 3, and 4 groups had become Tang Tang's most loyal fans 2, 3, and 4. Every day they would say, "Tang Tang loves you, Mwax. Tang Tang is so handsome. Mwah. Tang Tang, I'm here to sign in. Tang Tang is even more beautiful today. Tang Tang will always be my goddess. Sob, sob, sob." In the eyes of the anti-fans, this content was an eyesore. A bunch of traitors. Father Tang and Mother Tang pulled out all the posts that had once slandered Tanghua. Other than the one about her breaking up with Su He, the rest were all unfounded. Naturally, the number of people who slandered her decreased. I really didn't expect that it would be my own people who ruined my plan. Tanghua didn't know whether to laugh or cry when she found out, but it's good to have such parents. The system confirmed that Tanghua wasn't angry. On the contrary, it liked what Father and Mother Tang did and relaxed. It was fine as long as the host was happy. Only Xiaonie knew that Tanghua's only flaw was also fake. If everyone knew about this, would their faces hurt? He wanted to clarify, but Tanghua pushed open the door and walked into his study. She stared at the number on his phone and said, "If you dare to tell Suhi the truth, believe it or not, I'll make you very unhappy every day." Xiaonie pressed the button to end the call and stood up. He let her out and said, "You're on your period. You should rest more. It's easy to get angry." Tanghua was speechless. She saw that Xiaonie was mixing brown sugar water for her and put on a smile. "Anya, you're so considerate." She hugged Xiaonie's waist from behind. "Tell me, do you have a motive?" Chapter 342. Are you really not going to tell Suhi? Xiaonie looked at the woman drinking water on the sofa. He should know the truth. Don't tell him. Xiaonie was silent for a bit. Do you have a plan? Dear host, Xiaonie is very smart. No wonder he caught your eye. If I have a plan, will you help me? Xiaonie said without thinking, of course. Tanghua immediately put on a smile and sat beside him. Anya, why are you so nice? If he hadn't seen the woman's clear eyes, he would have thought that she had fallen in love with him. He must have owed her in his previous life, and now he owed her in this life too. I have decided to rely on you forever. Xiaonie, are you sure? Of course, I will never find a man who can serve me so well again. Guogua has good taste. Except for this man, I am very satisfied with the rest. Tanghua glanced at Xiaonie and saw that his expression was unchanged. It was different from the script. It was said that when a woman said that a man couldn't do it, the man would pull her aside to prove it. I don't need to prove it. Xiaonie said seriously. You've tried it before? Did you try it yourself, or did you get someone to try it? She narrowed her eyes. Xiaonie, there's no end to it. He touched her face. Do you really want it? You'll give it to me if I want it? Host, I think you should restrain yourself. This kind of man has such a good character. You might not be able to take it. Answer me. Am I right? Xiaonie deliberated over his words, and his eyes became more serious. Do you like me? If you are just curious and want to prove something and don't like me, I don't recommend you to have such an intimate relationship with me. Tanghua, maybe she should reevaluate this man. She stared at him. Do you like me? Yes. Do you like me even if I don't like you? Yes. She was startled and didn't speak for a long time. I want to ruin your reputation and take revenge on you so that you can't find a woman for the rest of your life. Are you willing?
Yes.
As long as you are happy. Tanghua fell silent. You remind me of someone. She returned to her seat. He always buys me different flavors of ice cream, but I've already forgotten the feeling of liking him. Host, do you want to see Wei Yu's recording? I've saved them all. Tanghua laughed. No need. I've almost forgotten. She was indeed so heartless, forgetting so quickly. If I don't like you, Xiaonie, are you still willing to be with me for the rest of your life? Yes, as long as you don't move out. Xiaonie wondered if that person was Su He. If it was, he would definitely win. Tangwa smiled. Then you can use your whole life to pay for your mistake. Maybe one day I'll fall in love with you. Anai, you have to work hard. Tangwa rubbed his hair and said softly, I'm more tolerant of the person I like. I'll treat him very well. Xiaonya met Tang with sincere eyes. His heart skipped a beat. He couldn't help but look forward to seeing how good she was to a person. For the first time, he had some expectations for the relationship between men and women. All right, the high school romance finally came to an end. The character of Lin Weiwei was originally very attractive. Since the start of the broadcast, she had gained countless fans. Even if she was so arrogant and proud, there were still countless people who liked her. In the last episode, Lin Weiwei slapped the male lead Qin Mo, which really made their blood boil. Chapter 343. Although Lin Weiwei is a little overbearing and sharp-tongued, she doesn't like her twin sister. But she is a person who has a clear distinction between love and hate. In the end, she chose to leave and turned around to burst into tears, which made many people feel distressed. It can be said that in this play, Lin Weiwei impressed the audience the most. Because of this play, there is a hot word, Weiwei's tears, on the internet, which means hot and unavoidable feelings. Half a year later, Xiaoya's mystery crime Phil, who is the murderer, was released. Before the release, there was no need for any publicity, and many people were looking forward to it. Unlike in the past, they want to see the movie because of Xiaoya's 2 words. This time, it was because of a female star named Tangwa. After they saw the stills, they had to admit that Tangwa had acting skills. When she played Lin Weiwei, she was a high school student, an all-round top student. When she played the second female lead in this play, she wore a white coat and really looked like a doctor. Before watching the movie, no one thought that the second female lead played by Tangwa might be the murderer. Do you want to go to the movies? This is the first time that Xiaonya has taken the initiative to ask Tangwa out. Tangwa just came out of the bathroom, and her hair was still wet. Xiaonya seemed to understand something. He turned around and took out the hairdryer skillfully. Tangwa's mouth hooked up. Anya, you've improved. You don't need me to call you. Xiaonya didn't speak and carefully dried her hair. Then he pushed her into the room. Go and change your clothes. Then he closed the door. Tangwa opened the door and showed her small face. You really don't want to come in and help me put it on? Xiaonya turned around and left. He had been familiar with this woman's routine for a long time. Thinking of her smiling appearance, his eyes flashed with a smile, and he sat on the sofa waiting for her. Tangwa wore very ordinary jeans and a t-shirt. After waiting for her down, Xiaonya stood up and came to her. He put on sunglasses, cap and mask for her personally. These things almost covered the small face. After doing this, he took Tangwa and was about to go out. Wait a minute, Tangwa said, staring at Xiaonya with amusement. Did you forget something? Seeing that Xiaonya was stunned for a moment, she turned around and ran back. A minute later, she had a cap, sunglasses, and a mask in her hand. Fortunately, I was prepared. Anya, have you forgotten that everyone in the country has seen your face? Others may not recognize me, but they will recognize you. If they recognize you, won't they know who I am? Tangwa said as she helped Xiaonya to arm himself. Okay, we can go now. Xiaonya held Xiao Xiao's hands and recalled the feeling of her hands on his face. It was a little wonderful. The two of them arrived at the cinema. When they entered, the entire theater was filled with people. There were no empty seats. Your movie is actually so popular? It wasn't like this in the past. He looked at the woman with his deep eyes. Many people came for you. He held the woman's hand tightly and couldn't bear to let go. He had the urge to hold her hand forever, no matter where she was. At the beginning of the movie, it was quieter, but in the middle of the movie, there were all kinds of suspense points, which caused some people to discuss softly. When the second male lead admitted that he had killed someone heaved a sigh of relief. I guessed it was him. It really is him. I think you should take a look at the progress bar, another girl reminded. The progress bar tells us that things aren't that simple. Chapter 344. Sure enough, when the people in the theater saw that there was still so much progress, they fell silent. On the day of the second male lead's trial, the case happened again. Everyone present could accept this result. However, when they saw the expression on the male lead's face change, they had a bad premonition in their hearts. When the scene changed to the rooftop and they saw that familiar back view, the audience broke down. "Fuck. It's really Gao Li, my angel, my goddess," he said. In this drama, except for the last performance, the second female lead was a smart and gentle sister the entire time. She was very different from the first female lead who was smart, generous, and domineering. Tang's gentle sister role warmed their hearts. When they were cleared of suspicion, they all heaved a sigh of relief. Generally speaking, the second male lead was first suspected, then cleared of suspicion, and finally arrested. He should be the real culprit. They forgot that the second female lead was also first suspected, and then cleared of suspicion. Who would have thought that the result would be the same? This time, the second female lead called the police herself. There was no way to clear her name. The impact of an angel turning into a demon was simply too great. The commotion only lasted for a moment. They chose to continue watching, especially wanting to know the result. When they heard their daughter's final statement, they only heard helplessness in her tone. Young children were molested by perverted adults. Sometimes, there was no punishment at all. More serious cases might even result in a few years of imprisonment. However, the pain that was left for these children was eternal. Most children would be haunted for their entire lives. It might even affect their marriage and children in the future. It might even lead to all kinds of tragedies. Some children couldn't take it and chose to commit suicide. The second female lead, who had also been bullied by her teacher when she was young, had walked out. She didn't expect that many years later, her teacher would harass her again. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore and killed her. Using her professionalism and intelligence, she successfully avoided all detection. Later, she found some children hiding in the corner of the orphanage, trembling. The reason made her angry. Later, she was an angel during the day, warming the hearts of these children. At night, she used her high intelligence to come up with one murder plan after another. If she hadn't exposed herself in the end, this would have become an unsolved case. In the end, she told the children that murder was illegal and that she would be punished. It was her last lesson to the children. The moment she jumped down the stairs, everyone present could not help but burst into tears. Tang is so despicable. Why didn't she act in the roles that made me feel the most beautiful? Why did she have to act in roles that made me cry in the end? Sob, 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 I'm so sad. That's too realistic. There's nothing we can do about it. Those perverts never get the lesson they deserve. So what if they're locked up for a few years? He's still alive even after coming out. I really pity those bullied children. After watching it, everyone in the theater wiped their tears and didn't react for a long time. When the staff came in to call them, they stood up and walked out one after another. No one knew that in the crowd, there was someone who made them cry. Xiaonya and Tangwa were calm the whole time, as if they were not moved by the characters in the movie. Forget about Xiaonya. He was the one who filmed the movie, and he was the one who changed the script. No matter how touching something was, he wouldn't feel anything after seeing it too many times. You don't have any ideas? Xiaonya asked. Tangwa raised her head, revealing only a pair of beautiful eyes. What thoughts? About the many unfair thoughts in this world. Tangwa smiled, lowered her eyes and said softly, no. She was probably used to it. The second female lead had chosen the same way as her. She used a self-destructive and extreme method to take revenge. Chapter 345. The box office of Who is the Murderer continued to rise. Since its release half a month ago, it had been full every day. Many people watched it twice, thrice, and finally, word of mouth spread. The film gave people a shocking feeling. Tangwa's acting skills were also recognized by everyone because of this film. She jumped from a popular voice actress to an actress and successfully jumped out. Many people were jealous. Many people wanted to find some dirt on Tangwa. Whether it was true or not, they wanted to release it. Unfortunately, no one bought it. Family Tang didn't need to do anything. The fans would jump out and fight back. The fiercest were not the sugar fans, but Tang was anti-fans. By the time the film was released, The box office had already reached 6 billion yuan. This figure was simply unbelievable and caused another sensation. Not long after, the film was released in various countries abroad and also caused a big sensation. Especially China, which had changed its laws several times because of a few films, also had a high evaluation of the film. The people of China felt that the second female lead's actions in the film were very satisfying, but at the same time, they felt that it was a pity. The impact of the film was something that Xiaonier and Tanghua did not expect. The first to be affected were the children who had been bullied, whether they were already adults, married and having children, or studying. They all stood up and wrote about their experiences, hoping that the world would be fair to them. They were once ashamed to speak, afraid of being despised by others, afraid of being threatened by those perverts, afraid that those beasts would make things difficult for them. After watching the film, they realized that they were wrong. Blindly hiding, avoiding, and escaping would only make those people rampant and proud in the end. They made mistakes, but they were not punished and did not realize their mistakes. Just like some perverts who violated young women, they would only laugh and say that it was because she was wearing revealing clothes and was too tempting. If this was not seducing them to commit a crime, what was it? Countless people even agreed with such sophistry. This was what everyone indulged in. This time, those who had been hurt when they were young no longer remained silent. The incident became more and more serious, and the dark truth gradually emerged on the harmonious surface. Many parents did not even know that their children had encountered such a thing. Anya, you are going to be famous this time. Tanghua looked at the news and smiled. I didn't expect China to change its laws because of a film. Anything is possible. Xiaonia didn't mind. In fact, the movie's influence was so great because there was a group of outstanding actors, especially the woman in front of him. She put almost all of herself into acting, as if she was the one who wanted to seek justice for those children. Sometimes, she didn't look like a young woman in her 20s, but more like a person who had experienced countless vicissitudes and tribulations. Why are you looking at me? Tanghua smiled. I know you like me. If you want to ask me if I like you, my answer is no. You have to work hard, Anya. Xiaonia nodded seriously. His eyes were very sincere. I will work hard. He tried his best to make her forget the harm he had done to her and slowly began to like her. Su He and I are half-brothers, Xiaonia suddenly said. After my mother got pregnant, he had another woman outside. Later, I found out that this woman had been involved with her for a long time. Chapter 346. That woman didn't have any background. She was his junior. They had always been in love. Until he took over the family business, he needed a wife with a strong background. My mother was the wife. Xiaonia lowered his head and said lightly, after they got married, his first love came and they rekindled their old love. He thought that my mother had already married him and everything was a foregone conclusion. He turned around and recalled his lost love. Xiaonia's eyes were full of sarcasm. My mother was a person who dared to love and hate. When she found out the truth, she had a miscarriage and gave birth to me in the hospital. She took me back to the Chow family and divorced him soon. She was in poor health and passed away very early. Before she died, she left me a plan. Tanghua was a little surprised. Xiaonia pulled her into his arms and hugged her soft body. He was very satisfied and continued. She left in a hurry and wanted to cut off the relationship between us. Plus, she was in poor health after giving birth to me. In retrospect, she didn't have an advantage in dividing the Su family's property. She made use of her last moments to write a plan for me. A plan to destroy the Su family and make the Su family bankrupt. Tanghua's eyes lit up. Your mother was a ruthless person. She liked it. Xiaonia saw the love in her eyes and felt a little satisfied. She was indeed the person he liked. According to the plan, I realized it step by step and added some private goods. The Su family couldn't resist at all. The private goods were to let Su He continue to be defeated. Xiaonia looked serious. The only mistake was to get you involved. He touched Tanghua's cheek. I don't regret it. If you didn't attack Su He, you wouldn't have left him. But you hurt me. Tanghua got up from his arms. Your revenge involved an innocent person like me. Xiaonya was stunned by Tang's seriousness and lack of smile. I'm sorry. If sorry is useful, what is the use of the law? Look at those characters in your movies who were hurt. Those children, they were hurt. Do they only need an apology? An eye for an eye. You took revenge on Suhee. It was her mother who destroyed your family. But by using me to deal with Suhee, you've hurt me. Tangwa said seriously, I'm the innocent one in this. Why did you agree? If I don't agree, you'll put pressure on Suhee. He's the one I liked back then. Hearing this, Xiaonya felt a bit of a heart attack. Tangwa laughed. Xiaonya, you just wanted to use the same method to take me away from Suhee and make him feel pain. You don't have your father's love, but you still want to snatch away the person who treats Suhee the best. You are jealous. Xiaonya sat where he was and sank into deep thought. All right, it's my fault. What do you want to do? He looked at her as if she could do whatever she wanted. Tangwa moved in front of Xiaonya. Since you admit your mistake with a good attitude, you have a lifetime to atone for it. Now I want to eat ice cream. Go and buy it for me. System. Host. Sometimes you're like a dog. Xiaonya was stunned for a moment. He held Tangwa's cold hand and refused without thinking. No, summer is almost over. Your period has just ended. You can't eat ice cream. Tangwa, she glanced at Xiaonya. His serious look made her narrow her eyes. Did we know each other in our previous lives? Chapter 347. Did I? Xiaonya could not remember. I don't think so. Tangwa chuckled. Yeah, I was just kidding. How could that be? Perhaps she was mistaken. From Longrui, Tangzheng, Yizhou, Weiyu, and even Xiaonya, she felt that there was something in common between them. Dear host, are you talking about the loyal dog attribute? As a considerate person, Lin Yiqian felt the need to help her analyze the problem. What do you see? Lin Yiqian only knew that her host was very charming. Anyone who had been seduced by her would become her loyal dog. Even someone as perverted as Longrui would eventually fall under her skirt. Who added this flattery attribute into your program? Tangwa asked. It must have come in by itself. Be good. In a few days, I'll take you out for ice cream. Xiaonya did not know what to do with the woman in front of him. She was already in her 20s, yet all she thought about was ice cream. Then I want to eat all of them. Xiaonya's expression softened. All right, I'll take you to the shop. You can put a spoonful of each into your bowl. If you really like them, you can eat them 3 times a month. Tangwa was startled and quickly protested. How is 3 times a month enough? Right then, the door opened. Zhui was standing at the door. When she heard the words 3 times a month, she froze on the spot. She felt as if she had been holding back for a long time. She glanced at Xiaonya and Tangwa. I didn't hear anything, she said. You can continue. I'll come back later. Then, she hurriedly opened the door and closed it with a bang. Standing at the door, Zhui was shocked. So there was a reason why Director Qiao had such a bad temper. Could he only eat them 3 times a month? Zhui felt that it was unfair that he could only eat them 3 times when facing her goddess. Her goddess was so good. How could he only eat her 3 times? She finally understood that when a man had a bad temper, it was very likely that he was impotent. TSK, TSK, TSK. After a moment of silence, Xiaonya said, Little E seems to have misunderstood something. He misunderstood that you can only eat them 3 times a month. What? Tangwa could not help but laugh. She pinched his face. She thinks that you can only do it 3 times a month. If you don't satisfy me, Anya, your reputation will be ruined. How would Little E know? Lin Yiqian shook her head. Not even once. Xiaonya was speechless. She sized up Xiaonya and realized that he wasn't angry, but his eyes were a little gloomy. Finally, he said, Then I'll have to work hard and make Guogua like me sooner. Xiaonya held her hand and kissed the back of her hand sincerely. He said something very indecent. I'm also very curious how many times I can do it in a month. I really want to try it with Guogua. His burning gaze and undisguised love seemed to be able to set people on fire. Then you have to work hard. Tangwa pulled her hand out. I haven't forgiven you yet. Tangwa stood up and returned to her room to change her clothes. When she came downstairs, She saw that Xiao Nian was still sitting on the couch. Little must be busy. I'm going out. Let's go together. Xiaonia followed her without hesitation. Zhu Yi stole a glance at Xiaonia before turning to look at Tanghua. Guogua, I'm here to inform you that you're going to receive an award. It's the Best Supporting Actress Award for high school romance. Also, there are a lot of film offers and variety shows that have invited you. Do you have any ideas? Chapter 348. I won't participate in variety shows. In the future, I'll only act in Anya's films. Zhu Yi's eyes widened. Guogua, you're courting death. Zhu Yi quickly reacted. Acting wasn't that important to Tanghua, right? She was the miss of the family Tang group. She used to like to be a bystander. If she didn't act, she would just leave the industry. She was different from other female stars. Zhu Yi didn't force her. If there's a film you're interested in, will you act in it? If there is, I won't refuse. As for variety shows, you can reject them all. Okay. Zhu Yi's face was bitter. She called the other party to reject her. The big star in her hands was a Mississippi. If she didn't want to act, she could go back and inherit the family property. What should she do? Forget it. If Guogua didn't act in the future, she wouldn't do it either. She might as well go back and inherit the family property. Host, don't you want to be an international star? The system was curious. Tanghua smiled. As a singer who was popular all over the world, there's no challenge to being an international star. I've been here for nearly 2 years. There's only 11 years left. What's the point of being so tired? But I feel that something is wrong. Clearly, the host wants to torture Xiaonia, right? Forget it, as long as she's happy. If there's a Wei Yu in every world, the host will be very happy. I wonder if this Xiaonia can become an upgraded version of Wei Yu in the end. No one was surprised that Tanghua won the Best Supporting Actress Award. Bai Wenwen and Suhee also came. Bai Wenwen certainly hoped that she could win the award, but it was impossible. She was a newcomer in the entertainment industry. It was her first time playing the female lead. There were too many actors with strength and background. She didn't have a chance. Since Wei Chuan went to prison and was locked up for an indefinite period, she had no one she could rely on in the entertainment industry. Fortunately, she still had the system. Last time, she succeeded in conquering Wei Chuan and received a reward. As for Suhee, she was only 1 point away from success. But when she saw Tanghua standing on the podium with a dazzling appearance, she was a little jealous. Are all natives so powerful? She's the miss of the family Tang group. She really hit it well. Host, work hard to complete the mission. 2 targets left, Suhee and Xiaonia. Let me remind the host that Xiaonia's luck is even richer than Suhee's. If the host succeeds in defeating Xiaonia, the host will be rewarded with a super gift bag containing permanent skills. This sentence made Bai Wenwen very excited. She had long wanted a permanent skill. However, when she thought about how she had to defeat Xiaonia in order to obtain it, her heart sank again. Didn't Tanghua like Suhee? It is suggested that the host should find a way to let Tanghua return to Suhee's side after successfully capturing Suhee. Then, the host will have a chance to capture Xiaonia. Bai Wenwen was still uncertain. Was it possible? She wanted to do that. She liked Suhee a lot, but she had already transmigrated to many worlds before this. She had long become numb to liking someone. If these people died, so be it. Even if she died, she still had to continue. What was more important to her was, of course, the big gift pack reward. She couldn't help but look at Xiaonia, who was a few seats away. That man was focused on the woman on the podium. Just the side of his face was better looking than Suhee's. She didn't know that wherever Tanghua was, her conversation with 875 would be heard. Tanghua walked down and glanced at Bai Wenwen. She was now fully sure that 875 should belong to the evil system. In today's words, it was a pirated system, a tool used by some people to steal luck. Congratulations, Tanghua, Bai Wenwen said with a sincere face. Chapter 349. Tanghua sat back in her seat. A female star next to her thought that Bai Wenwen was very good, so she gave up her seat for her. I watched Director Chiao's Who is the Murderer. It was really wonderful. Ding. Xiaonie's favorability value is 5. Current favorability value is 95. Warning, warning, the target is about to fail. Please work hard. If the mission fails, you will be severely punished. Bai Wenwen's face turned pale. She looked at Xiaonie in disbelief. Didn't she just praise him? Just to reduce her favorability value? 875. Are you sure you're not playing with me? How can I capture such a perverted person? Just like Liang Chao, the favorability value will drop with just a praise. How can I capture him? I can't praise him. Do you want me to scold him? Bai Wenwen was really annoyed. What kind of broken world is this? Host, not working hard is not an excuse. If you don't seriously contact the target, naturally you can't get favorability value. Please work hard and complete the mission as soon as possible. At that time, Bai Wenwen wanted to curse. What kind of broken mission is this? Forget about Liang Chao. What the hell is this Xiaonie? Tang Guo was next to her, expressionless. In fact, she was laughing crazily in her heart. She was complaining to the system. 875 doesn't seem to have a high IQ. Host, you also found it? And she hugged Xiaonie's arm. Xiaonie looked down at her. He was thinking about what she would do to torment him. He heard her whisper, that Bai Wenwen is so annoying. And? Anya, Bai Wenwen wanted to seduce you just now. I won't be seduced. Anya, do you hate her? I hate her. Tang Guo was satisfied. She leaned close to his ear and said, then if you hate her a little more, I'll kiss you. Xiaonie's whole body was stiff, but his heart was burning. He had seen too many beautiful women in this circle. Many of them had tried to seduce him, but even if those women stood in front of him without wearing anything, he was no different from looking at a statue. However, the woman next to him only said that she wanted to kiss him in his ear. His heart was beating so fast, and he was looking forward to it. Okay. After thinking for half a minute, Xiaonie agreed. He recalled Bai Wenwen's appearance just now. Just like what Tang was said, she was indeed seducing him. Originally, he didn't like Bai Wenwen very much, and when he remembered that she was Sui's girlfriend, his disgust continued to increase. He didn't know how Bai Wenwen did it, but some rumors on the internet were released by Bai Wenwen. However, he did not find any evidence. For a moment, his impression of Bai Wenwen dropped to the bottom. Bai Wenwen felt that she shouldn't provoke Xiaonie for the time being. Before she could sit down, she heard a death notification. Ding. Xiaonie's favorability has increased by 5. Current favorability is 100. Attacking Xiaonie has failed. Host, please prepare to receive 20 minutes of electric shock as punishment. Bai Wenwen's face turned pale at that time. The pain of the electric shock came in an instant. She fell into her seat all of a sudden. She only felt the pain in her soul. It was too painful. Damn Xiaonie. Damn it. Wasn't it just a few words of praise? Was there a need to reduce her favorability by 10 points? Damn 875. Of all things, why did she have to ask her to woo Xiaonie? Was that man so easy to woo? Ah, it hurts. Wenwen, what's wrong? Suhi saw that Bai Wenwen's whole body was twitching and her face was pale. He panicked. While talking on the phone, he held Bai Wenwen in his arms. Wenwen, I've called an ambulance. Wait a minute. Bai Wenwen bit her lip, looked at Suhi in pain, and suddenly said, he, am I important to you? Chapter 350. Wenwen, of course you are important to me. Don't talk, hold on. Bai Wenwen gritted her teeth. He, do you love me? Yes, of course I love you. A long time ago, I liked you in high school. Bai Wenwen squeezed out a smile on her face. He, do you really love me? Are you willing to marry me? Suhi froze for a moment. Seeing Bai Wenwen's painful appearance, he became more and more worried. He thought that Wenwen was worried that he would die. He quickly said, Wenwen, when you are better, let's get engaged. He and Bai Wenwen were originally boyfriend and girlfriend. Marriage was nothing. Moreover, he had always liked her. Their marriage would only be blessed. At this moment, he seemed to have put down Tang Guo and expelled the woman who betrayed him from his heart. Ding. Suhi's favorability value was 1. Current favorability value was 100. Successful capture. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a big gift package. The gift package has been placed in the system backpack. The pain of the soul seemed to be alleviated by this sentence. Bai Wenwen's face showed a smile, which made Sui's heart relaxed. Are you better? And much better. At least she had successfully captured 2 people in this world and would not be obliterated. The pain continued until Bai Wenwen was taken away. Host, when can I swallow 875? The system was very greedy. He had a feeling that if he swallowed the other party, he would become more powerful. Tangwa thought for a moment. Wait until they get married. Oh, host, you were so bad. The award ceremony ended. Guogua. In? Tangwa looked at Xiaonya strangely. What's wrong? Xiaonya coughed lightly and took her hand. Nothing. Let's go. It's very late. Host, you just promised Xiaonya that you would kiss him. Did you forget? He was a considerate little expert. Even if the host did not remember, he remembered it clearly. Tangwa. Back at the villa, Xiaonya sent Tangwa to the door. He paused and turned to leave. Anya. En? Xiaonya quickly turned around. Is there anything else? Under the mature appearance, there was a fast-beating heart. Tangwa smiled. Her red lips parted slightly. Good night. Xiaonya was stunned for a moment before he reacted. Good night. Who would have thought that as a director, he would be so pure? The system sighed. How could a pure and innocent guy win against an experienced driver like its host? Xiaonya was a little disappointed. It wasn't that he didn't notice the slyness in the woman's eyes. As long as she was happy, it was fine. I. Before Xiaonya could react, a soft body fell into his arms. Then, something pecked his face. He looked at the smiling woman and couldn't help but kiss the back of her hand. His pitch-black eyes were extremely bright. Being looked at by such a gaze would always cause one to lose focus for a moment. Anya, I suddenly realized that you're a little cute. Tangwa pushed Xiaonya away, turned around, and walked back into the room. The corners of her lips curled up slightly with a very satisfied smile. Does Guogua like me a little? Tangwa turned around and smiled gently. She blinked and said, No. Oh. Xiaonya had a warm smile on his face. It's okay. We still have a lifetime. Why would Guogua kiss someone she doesn't like? Xiaonya looked at her seriously. Tangwa really didn't expect that this guy actually had a plan in mind. She thought for a moment and said, You're as cute as a puppy. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.